There are 3 courtroom recordings, about 35 minutes, and only 2 of those actually feature Judge Dugan. So the defense wanted the 3rd recording to basically be excluded because they don't want any video that she is not present in to be used in court. And on the defense side, they spoke about, expert witnesses that they expect to call. The defense wants to bring in an immigration lawyer as their expert witness. However, prosecutors say they don't want that to happen because they say this immigration lawyer was not in court when this whole thing went down, so they don't really have any testimony that would be relevant in this particular case. And as far as what it would actually look like. So they spoke about how the trial days will typically be 9 to 5 once they actually have their jury members selected. They say all the juries will actually be fed in the building, so they won't have to keep coming in and out during the actual court day. So yeah, today was just basically a standard pre-trial hearing, if you will. Them just going over what it's actually going to look like. So it does look like we are moving forward. So sorry, I just threw a lot of information out at you.
No, Durante, I think our viewers probably like hearing almost this behind-the-scenes look into a trial as they get ready. Those details of, I imagine it might be hard to find some jurors just because this case has gone so national, which I don't want to jump the gun too much. So for anybody tuning in, can you provide a little bit of background as to what Judge Dugan is accused of and the charges that she faces?
Yes, so this all dates back to April. So Judge Dugan was accused of helping an undocumented man who was identified as Eduardo Flores Luis escape federal agents. So he was in her courtroom back in April for a misdemeanor battery charge, and there were federal agents in the courthouse waiting to arrest him. So prosecutors say that Judge Dugan actually went out and directed the agents to the chief judge's office sort of down the hall, and once they actually went that way, they allege she went back into the courtroom, her courtroom, and escorted Eduardo Flores Ruiz out of her courtroom, out of like a back door, and then out of the building where he was later arrested by ICE agents outside after a brief foot chase. So she was indicted by a grand jury the following month on those charges of helping him evade, as well as, I believe, obstruction charges as well, to which she has pleaded not guilty to both of those charges, and she has not accepted a plea deal as of right now.
I was going to say, I remember living in Greenville, South Carolina when this happened, and it made headlines even there just because immigration and ICE has been such a big talker this past year. As you mentioned, she did plead not guilty. She did not take a plea deal, so this is set to go to trial now. I'm curious, what was kind of the atmosphere in the courtroom today? Was Judge Dugan there, and if so, how was she feeling?
So Judge Dugan was there. She did not speak. It was pretty much just she's kind of how do I say this? She's kind of been a little bit famous, for having sort of that blank stare, just not really showing any emotion here or there to the charges, which, like I said, she's already pleaded not guilty to. So it just seemed just like a pretty standard hearing today. This is something that she is clearly ready to fight for in court, fight for her innocence, which she's maintained with her not guilty plea and her not accepting a plea deal. And sort of after the trial was over, she kind of dashed outside, so we were all waiting just to see if we can get a word from her or anything, which she has not said anything about this, since everything has happened back in April. So we saw her for a couple of seconds sort of make her way out of the courthouse and into her vehicle, where her lawyers went out the front way. She kind of went out the side door.
Yeah, so again, no comment from Dugan today. No plea deal was taken. This is set to go to trial as planned December 11th. Of course, Durante, you'll work on your full story about today's pretrial hearing, which we'll catch later on in Fox Local. But thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
No problem. Thank you so much.
That's the very latest there from Judge Dugan. Again, that is now set to go to trial, which here on Fox 6, Fox Local, Wisconsin Live Desk will continue to cover that every step of the way and keep you informed with the latest. Again, I know that is a big case. A lot of people are watching that and curious what the outcome will be. I did like Durante's kind of insight there into some of the things they're discussing when it comes to getting ready for a trial. Not just, how many jurors do we need to call in, potential jurors, I should say, but how are we feeding them? Are we going to let them leave the courthouse for meals? Will we bring it in? So all of that kind of little details were ironed out today so that they're ready to go to trial come December. All right, hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then we're going to switch gears. Do you remember that story Ashley did a few weeks ago about the sheep on the loose? Well, they are still on the loose, and we still have questions, so we're going to talk to an expert coming up right after the break. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey you guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk this Wednesday. Quick time check for you. It is now 12:43, and I know I said it before, but it's kind of Thanksgiving Eve because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and we just had something pop up on the feed that I want to take you out to. This is in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where you can see they're doing a little pre-Thanksgiving feast, cutting up a turkey right there, and you can't see it right now on the feed, but also serving these meals would be the Vice President. J.D. Vance is there along with the Second Lady and their children, just serving up a quick meal to those men and women who are serving our country. There we go. Now you can see it's a family affair out there with the Vice President, the Second Lady, and the kiddos all helping pass out. It looks like the kids maybe are doing some cookies of some sort. Very cute, and just a good reminder to be grateful this Thanksgiving, especially for those who, make the ultimate sacrifice and serve our country on the front line there. Well, hey, I know I said it a little bit before we went to break, but this is a story that has been doing so well on Fox Local because it's just a little bit bizarre. There are these two sheep who are on the loose. First, they were kind of in the Mequon area. Now they continue to be on the loose as of late in Port Washington. They have been spotted for weeks, but they are continuing to evade capture. We have so many questions as to how this is happening, so we thought, let's just go ahead. Let's bring in an expert. We're being joined right now with Erica. She's a regional dairy educator. Erica, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi.
Okay, so I have to start off by just asking you your thoughts on these sheep being on the run. I know you said you were talking to your sister about it.
Yes, I shared this story with my sister, and we were kind of joking about it. We just thought it was kind of funny because the sheep are kind of hard to deal with, and I'm sure people in the city aren't going to have a lot of luck catching them.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious, just like, is this normal for sheep to want to run away and for it to take this long to capture them?
It depends on the sheep. If sheep that are motivated by food will come to people. These sheep don't appear to be super motivated to go to people.
I'm also curious because, originally, Erica, there was a third sheep that was with them who I know a few weeks ago went rogue, went off on their own. Is that common for a sheep to go on the road, kind of leave behind the other two?
Absolutely not. Sheep depend on being with each other, and it's not comfortable for them to be alone, so they'll try to stick with each other.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting then that we had that third one that actually did go rogue. I'm curious, how are they managing this? I mean, it's been weeks now. I mean, how are they able to find, safe places to be and food? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, food isn't a problem. They're finding a lot of lawns to munch on, I'm sure. There's a lot of nice green lawns for them to eat, and other nice flowers and pumpkins and whatnot in
Right?
people's yards for them to eat. And they're finding water, so that's not a problem. And they're really not too bad off for shelter, I'm sure. They're probably finding places to get out of the wind, but they have their wool to help them keep insulated and warm.
So obviously being on the loose and on the run here probably isn't the ideal setting forever for these sheep, but what is a good home, a good permanent spot for these sheep?
Hopefully on a farm, somewhere where they're enclosed and safe from predators and other vehicles and things like that who could potentially hit them.
Right. Okay, so what do you think we should do if we happen to come across these sheep? I believe as of late they're in Port Washington.
Well, first of all, I know people have been encouraged to try to capture them. I don't encourage that. These sheep clearly do not want to be caught, and so they're staying away from people as much as they can. And sheep are kind of unpredictable, and their natural instinct is to just bolt, and they don't have a lot of thought process into how they're going to react. They're very just reactionary animals that just run and try to get away from people. And so someone without a lot of experience dealing with these animals might not know what to do. I see both of them have horns and they could get hurt.
Yeah.
And sheep in general are very strong and very fast. And someone without experience dealing with them could get hurt pretty seriously.
No, I think those are all some great reminders there. I was just looking up, there's this Lost Pets of Sheboygan County's Facebook post that is almost tracking the progress that they've made since August, which they were first kind of spotted in Mequon. Then I went up to Grafton, as of late, Port Washington. I mean, are you impressed by the distance these two sheep are covering, or do you find this kind of normal for their species there?
In general, I think sheep, at least in Wisconsin, don't necessarily need to travel. But I think they're grazing animals, so they're just kind of moving around where they're finding food, and they're not really inhibited from going anywhere, so they're going to continue to just travel.
I'm also just curious your thoughts as somebody who, is more in that animal realm, how much the public is kind of obsessed with these two sheep now. As I mentioned, I mean, I'm looking at a tracker of them. What do you think of just kind of the hysteria this has all created?
Well, I'm about 150 miles north of Milwaukee, and even I've found the story, just kind of came across it, and it's entertaining to me. I just hope that people don't get too excited about it. If they see the sheep and try to capture them or give them something they should eat. And again, just to remember that these are farm animals, and these people who are trying to capture these sheep aren't necessarily experienced with these farm animals. So please use caution. Don't try to capture them. If they catch them in their yard with a fence, that's great. I know that there's been a couple of stories that people have offered to wrangle these sheep who are professionals, and that's the ideal situation. And to hopefully get a hold of those people, and these sheep can find themselves on a farm somewhere soon.
Yeah, and I know there's also been some people volunteering their farms saying, hey, if we're able to get these sheep, they can come live here. Happily, we've got the land, the space. We would love to take care of them. So hopefully, eventually, we can safely and up to the professionals capture these 2 sheep to get them to a farm. I'm curious, though, because I think it's so fascinating that it's strange that that 3rd sheep went rogue. What do you think that sheep is up to? Is there a chance we'll spot that one?
I hope it finds its friends. I'm sure they're very much separated at this point. It's very, very unusual for a sheep to separate itself. I think something must have scared it or somehow separated it from the other 2, but that is extremely unusual for a sheep to do that.
Yeah.
They rely on being in a flock.
It's just all such an interesting situation there, Erica. Before I let you go, is there anything else that really stands out to you about this situation or anything you wanted to say about sheep?
Again, sheep are very reactionary. They're, again, very fast. And so if you approach them, just be aware that they may either run directly at you or run the opposite direction. They're just, they're very flaky and they're kind of flighty. So just be aware that if you do approach them, you don't know which way they're going to go.
They are very flaky, very flighty, and very popular right now online, these 2 sheep. Erica, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and offering us all of that insight.
Yes.
And have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow.
You too.
We appreciate Erica joining us here on the live desk because, yeah, this story is just so interesting. And the fact that they continue to cover so much ground and pop up in new places. And obviously, people are very fascinated tracking these 2 sheep. And again, as Erica said, hopefully safely we can get them to a farm or somewhere else where they can more permanently stay and live. Really quickly before we take another break, I'm just going to take us right back out to Kentucky. If you missed this, of course, our feed is moving around. We always say these are kind of the behind-the-scenes looks here. This is a photographer currently filming in Kentucky. We'll see if that settles. But J.D. Vance, the vice president, his wife, and their, I believe, 3 children were all there serving Thanksgiving meals to some of the soldiers at Fort Campbell. So, of course, another kind of Thanksgiving reminder, another thing to be grateful for. And, sorry, Carrie? Oh, yeah, Carrie was reminding us another thing about Thanksgiving we could show you. The balloon floats that are inflating. This one looks like some sort of a Pokemon. I see the Pokeball. Behind that, I see Minnie Mouse. I do think it's kind of an interesting angle to be able to see these balloons on the ground, because we know they're big. They require so many different people to walk and carry them, but you can really see just how tall they are. These people are so small next to these giant balloons, which I'm telling you, if this Thanksgiving parade was here in Milwaukee, these balloons would not be being inflated. They would not be going in the air this year because it's a windy one right now outside. But I'm hoping this feed will stay up kind of throughout the next few hours because I want to keep looking at it. It's just so fascinating, all those volunteers there getting us ready for the Thanksgiving Day parade tomorrow. Perhaps that's one of your traditions to go and watch that every morning with your family. Hey, we are going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then we are actually going to talk to a local author whose book came out recently, getting some awards, and it's kind of set here in Milwaukee, which is always fun. So you're not going to want to miss that. Make sure and stay with us. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk, where we are really just cruising through the first half an hour today on your Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I did want to take another quick live look outside here in Milwaukee. This is, of course, City Center, where honestly, it's looking a little better than it was at the airport a few minutes ago, but you can certainly see the wind shake that camera as well. If you look at the flags on the top of those buildings, they are whipping right now because there are definitely some strong winds outside. Snow is expected today, more snow expected this weekend, and I don't know about you, but that does not make me want to go outside. It makes me want to stay inside and perhaps curl up with a book, which is perfect because we are being joined right now with Carlo, a local author who just had his debut novel come out. Carlo, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thank you for having me. I'd much rather be than be outside.
I know. No one wants to be outside right now. That is right. So I see the poster behind you and the books on the table. Tell us all about The Sins We Inherit.
Yeah, so the novel dropped August 15th. It's a story, in my mind, a combination of the grit of Breaking Bad and the heart of Foxtail. It's about a man named Paul who grew up in a Milwaukee neighborhood. His grandfather was the mob boss of Milwaukee. He got his way out of it, went to college, had a successful business career, and at the same time, he was going through a devastating divorce. His patriarch grandfather passes away, and he gets brought back into the life. It's also a story about him trying to repair his relationship with his daughter. The other thing that I think is important, Milwaukee is really the central character in the novel. There's a lot of about the city. It's the city that I love in, and it'll viewers that are from the Wire. That story feels like it belongs in both. That's all the city here it is. City of Milwaukee.
Carlo, we're having just a little bit of a struggle hearing you. So if you're able at all to move maybe slightly closer to the camera, we'll see if we can hear you because I want to hear about this book. But I know you mentioned Milwaukee's kind of a central character as well. Why was it important for you to set it here in Milwaukee?
Well, I was born and raised in Milwaukee. So the Emanuel family, there's roughly 300 of us in the city. And it's a really important part of my background. And it's a city that I've never left. I've had the opportunity in my business career to relocate many times. And I just love the city in all different ways. From the south side all the way to, Pleasantville, county where I live today.
Yeah, and this book, I mean, has already won some awards. What has the reception been like since coming out, which I have to imagine as an author is all you can ever dream of?
Well, first off, to be painfully clear, it's been really humbling. And it's really hard to humble me. So I've been thrilled with the reception. So, the Goodreads, there's many of them. It's average about 4.8, 4.9. Won the Literary Titan Gold Award, the American Writing Award, Fiction Book of the Year for Suspense and Thriller. It was in the finals for Best Debut Novel. On the short list for Clear Awards, and expecting a few others within the next couple of months. Plus the sales in the top 1% for fictional crime noir. So as a independent author, without a major publishing backing, I'm just thrilled with the reception and how it's gone this year.
All right, so when you're seeing that much success with your debut novel, the next question has to be, what's next?
Yeah, so it is a planned trilogy. So I've already made book 2. The outline is arcs are complete, and I just finished editing chapter 1 actually. So I'm expecting and working really hard to get book 2 out by, which will really expand the world, likely a little bit longer, a little bit more complex. But given the reception of book 1, I'm really excited to expand and share the story.
Yeah. Okay. So book 2, book 3 on their way. Always good news for the readers. What do you hope the reader takes away when they sit down and they read your book?
Well, really the biggest thing that I want, this isn't soap opera. I want it to feel like a gritty, real story. The second thing is the main character, Constantino, has a lot of meaning.
Mm.
And this whole process started with me just journaling about my life, things I'm proud of, the mistakes that I've made. And I was really writing it when I was in a position of anxiety and heartbreak, and it turned into a creative outlet.
Mm.
So really for me, I hope that it feels personal to the readers because it's certainly personal to me.
Yeah.
It's not a shoot 'em up crime drama. It's a gritty story.
I mean, talk about anxiety, heartbreak, all feelings so many of us can relate to. Curious though, when you base, Constantino after yourself, is it hard if people don't like the character then? Or do you take that personally? Like, hey, that was based after me.
So, I'm like everybody else. There are some things that I like, some things are not. And I'm at the age, and I got enough canvases on my hand. If people don't like me, I'm good with it.
That's right. That's right. That's a good attitude to have. I mean, especially when your book is doing so well there. So exciting to have you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. How do we find your book, Carlo? I guess that's an important question.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's available on Amazon. It's still available in retailers locally. With retailers want to expand, they can have the wholesale discounts and influence sparks. It's also in Noble online. So the reach is pretty broad.
Awesome. Yeah, lots of places to go and grab it. And I think it's a great weekend to stay in and read. So The Sins We Inherit, we'll have to grab that one. Carlo, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you guys can be okay. Sorry for the initial audio issue.
And a happy Thanksgiving, Carlo.
Yeah, same to you.
Thank you. Kind of so fun there to talk to a local author whose book kind of takes place in Milwaukee. Whenever I've read books that, mention the town that I live in or the town I grew up in, I just feel like I'm even more connected to that book and those characters, which is what he was going for, that kind of personal connection to the characters in the book there. A very cool interview. I want to see if we lost our balloon feed. I was so excited to continue to go back to New York there, but I can get us to New York. It's just not necessarily the most Thanksgiving of shots, but if you're like me, I think Thanksgiving is a holiday within the Christmas season. So let's take a look right here at the FOX Christmas tree right outside their kind of headquarters there in New York City. This is a 50-foot tall Christmas tree. I looked it up yesterday during the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is a real tree. I know sometimes when I see things that are that tall, I assume that it has to be artificial, but this is real. You can't tell from this bird's eye view, but a lot of the ornaments are red, white, and blue. It had kind of an American theme this year to the tree, and this is where perspective is going to get you. That dove Christmas tree topper is 6 feet tall, which is crazy, because it doesn't seem that big. That is bigger than me, that topper. So that kind of puts it in perspective just how tall 50 feet would be for the Christmas tree there. Of course, it's feeling like the Christmas season here in Milwaukee because we've got snow, and I know we are expecting even more on Saturday. It's becoming more of a bigger system to certainly keep your eyes on. And so we're going to hopefully be joined at some point during the Wisconsin Live Desk with our weather expert, Stephanie. She's been busy tracking that and forecasting that because it's potentially going to be 6 to 8 inches was the latest model. So we'll see if we can have her join us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk coming up. But otherwise, we'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with more news in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk on your Wednesday afternoon. Currently 1:07 here in Milwaukee. I'll be with you on the live desk till 2:30, and then our very own Ted Perry will take over, get you to 3:30 on this day before Thanksgiving. Maybe you are watching before you leave for your travel plans, or perhaps you're waiting to go pick up a loved one from the airport. So let's go take a live look right here at Mitchell International Airport in Milwaukee, which, to be fair, looks a lot better than it did at 12:30. Certainly still a lot of wind. I'm seeing the camera shake, but there was so much fog when we looked at this about an hour ago. So that on that front certainly looks better. I did look up again, kind of departures to see if there were any delays or cancellations at Mitchell right now. There is only one delay on the board, which is a flight to Detroit for Delta. Everything else, though, is on time. So don't let the weather right now scare you if you have any travel plans. It doesn't look like it's impacting. See, we're watching a Southwest flight right there take off. They're doing just fine at Mitchell. But they are expecting a lot of travelers and passengers this weekend. They're actually expecting about 200,000 are going to fly through Milwaukee between today and Sunday. This is some of the busiest travel times of the year. So they did provide just a couple of helpful reminders to make sure that you have the smoothest travel experience as possible. One, they recommend staying in touch with your airline. Just make sure maybe you download your airline's app. That way, if you have any changes to your flights, or you can get even early check-in, you can get your mobile airline ticket all through that app. So just stay in communication with whatever airline you're flying, whether that be Delta, Southwest, United, American. You want to make sure that you're connected with them. The other thing they're recommending is certainly to arrive early. They are recommending you get to the airport about 2 hours before your departure time, especially if you're checking any bags or flying with small children. I know we had our very own Bowen Kudrovich at Mitchell pretty much all morning long for Wake Up. We did see it pretty busy around 5 a.m. Then it calmed down. So, I wouldn't expect as many delays, at least for today. It was pretty calm between 5:30 up until about 11. But they were saying the busiest travel time is 11 to 8 today. Finally, if you are driving and parking your car at the airport, they say to download the MKE Smart Park app. That is actually how you can reserve your parking spot in advance. So you'll be able to just kind of scan in and out of the parking facility if you download that app. And the other piece of advice they have are for those of you going to the airport to pick up your loved ones. If they are flying into Milwaukee to spend Thanksgiving with you, they recommend that you actually park in hourly parking to go and get them. That way it kind of avoids the congestion that you might see in the baggage claim roadway. I know that can sometimes be the most stressful part of traveling, is when you are trying to pick up a loved one and there are cars everywhere.
Let me jump in.
It's hard to even find them. Oh, Carrie's very passionate about this. Tell me what you're feeling here, Carrie.
Well, no. I just wanted to let you know that the other really good option for people who are picking guests up, or friends, family, or whatever, there is a cell phone lot. So as you come over the rise as you're heading into the airport, there's a small lot. It probably holds 50 cars or so. Yeah. And you just sit there until your friend texts you, okay, I've got my bags, and then you just literally zip in, pick them up, and you're out. It's really simple.
Instead of waiting there.
And you don't have to get in and out of your car.
That's when, police are asking you to leave anyway. They're honking at you, telling you to move. So that's a great idea to go to that kind of cell phone lot there. Stay in touch with your traveler. They did just note that if you do the hourly parking, if you are there for 30 minutes or less, it is free. So that is kind of a nice option too. So 2 options there to go and get your loved ones if they're flying in to see you. I'm going to be honest. I'm glad that I don't have to fly, because I know this is going to be a very busy weekend, and I'm happy to avoid that. Again, we are expecting some snow. At some point, we'll be joined by a weather expert to kind of give you the very latest forecast for your Thanksgiving holiday weekend, which makes this next story seem a little silly to me, but it's very exciting, so we're still going to talk about it. But I know on Monday, the high is currently 18 degrees, so the last thing I'm going to want is ice cream. But if it's free, and there's a chance to meet a celebrity, you know what? Maybe actually do sign me up. Have you guys heard this announcement? I know so many people are freaking out right now. Koff's Custard announced that they are creating a special flavor in honor of a new movie coming out. They're calling it Song Sung Blueberry in honor of Song Sung Blue, which you've caught the previews. This stars Hugh Jackman and oh my gosh, wait, why am I Kate Hudson? I was just going to totally blank on Kate Hudson's name, actually kind of highlighting a Milwaukee couple who famously had their Neil Diamond tribute band. So because it kind of takes place here in Milwaukee, Hugh Jackman's going to come out and he's going to serve you this Song Sung blueberry custard. You can get this flavor at pretty much any Kopp's location, but in order to meet Hugh Jackman, that will be at the Greenfield location. This is on Tuesday, December 2nd. Now, here's what you gotta know. You can't just go early in the morning to line up. They say you can begin lining up in a designated area at the Greenfield location starting at 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday, so don't go before that. 1:30 p.m. is when you can go and line up, bundle up, because it's gonna be cold. But the first 500 people in line will get a free scoop, and it's going to be served by Hugh Jackman, which I think is so cool. That movie is going to come to theaters starting December 25th, so you can get a little kind of feeling for the movie by getting this Song Sung blueberry ice cream. Carrie, would you go out to meet Hugh Jackman here?
I would probably go more for the custard than Hugh Jackman, to be honest. I love Kopp's custard.
I've had Kopp's custard before. It is really good. I think that in this kind of temperature, there's no way I'm going for the custard. I would probably only be going to see Hugh Jackman.
Well, then that would be your loss then, I guess.
I mean, I would still get it, but I'm just saying, just the idea of some blueberry custard when it's in the teens is not going to pull me. But I do know Gino is so excited for this movie. He's pretty close, well, I don't know if he's close, but he's pals with Hugh Jackman. He's excited to welcome him here to Milwaukee.
Even on a day when it's 5 or 10 below, the parking lot is full at Kopp's custard.
That's true.
It's really wild, but you just can't beat it.
Do you think people are going to adhere to the rule to not come before 1:30?
Not a chance.
Correct. I'm also thinking that come 6 a.m., we're going to see people all lined up right here to get their Song Sung blueberry custard, which again, I think is absolutely crazy with how cold it's going to be. You would not find me there, but I'm happy for any Hugh Jackman fans out there who cannot wait for this experience. I am curious. I want to bring in our very own weather expert, Stephanie. Stephanie, would you go out on Tuesday for this ice cream?
Oh, I would.
You would?
100%.
Okay. To meet Hugh?
I'm probably more so with Carrie. I do really like Hugh Jackman, though, and I would love to meet him, but I just think of how crazy it probably is going to be.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Carrie. I mean, Kopp's custard is by far the best. There's one not too far from my home, and it's one of those places where, I mean, custard and food is incredible, but it's also one of those fun spots where, like, first day of school, last day of school, you go, you get some custard, you hang out outside. It's just one of those places. Very small town or hometown feel there.
Yeah, hopefully Hugh Jackman likes it. I'm a little worried, Stephanie, he's not going to like our forecast because it's messy today and it's going to be messy this weekend.
Yes, we have two separate systems. One, of course, that we're dealing with right now. The next one we're already watching for the weekend. Little too early for specifics, but I will say that there is the potential for several inches of accumulation. So the weekend storm here locally looks bigger than what we have moving through right now. We'll continue to watch it very closely, but then early next week we see a big drop in temperatures. Today is already a big drop in temperatures compared to what we saw the last couple of days. Remember, yesterday's high was 50. Our current wind chill is in the teens right now, so very, very different feel. We still have some light snow falling too across the Milwaukee area, across much of southeast Wisconsin, and I've been really taking an eye of some of these cameras because you can tell that the visibility from time to time still dropping. So this is wind-driven snow. It's not really falling at a heavy rate, but because it's being whipped around by some of these really strong gusts, it will continue to be an issue when it comes to visibility. Nothing terrible right now, although even in the last hour, saw a lot of spots very quickly go down to less than a mile, then go back to 2 miles. So it's really just that back and forth as you get caught in some of these gusts and some of these pockets of more light to moderate snowfall. Right now, most of the moderate snow, we'll call it, is actually up towards the north, but you can see all the way south into Waukesha and Milwaukee and now northern Racine County still dealing with some snow. But when we talk about the more moderate batches, we're looking at some of these darker purples, just to put it simply for you. That's indicating a little bit of a stronger batch of snow making its way on through. So again, that combined with the wind going to cause some lower visibility. Now, thankfully, I have not seen any accumulation on any pavement, any roadways. days. So as you're commuting today, as you're traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday, you'll still want to take it slow. I mean, we'll have wet pavement for the remainder of the day today, but thankfully all of the accumulation I've seen has primarily been on grassy surfaces. Now, the heaviest snow is up towards the north. In fact, Green Bay dealing with some heavy snow as it continues to wrap around the backside of this low pressure. There is still some lake influence to parts of northwestern Wisconsin, dealing with some lake enhancement. Tonight, tomorrow, they could deal with some lake effect as the system itself pulls eastward, but there is still the chance for some snow. Keep that in mind if you're planning on heading far north for your Thanksgiving holiday. Now, just to recap again, I know we've been talking about this most of the day, but until 6 o'clock tonight, northern communities are under a winter weather advisory. Just a slightly better chance to see a few inches worth of accumulation. Not quite seeing it at the moment, but the chance is still there. The wind, I think, is the bigger deal for today. We're all under that advisory. That also continues until 6 o'clock, and we've got gusts across the state between 40 and at least 45 miles per hour. Haley, we have a window that looks out to our weather deck, and these trees are just bending because of how strong the wind is here locally. And now I heard that you guys were talking earlier about New York City. Obviously a big parade going on there tomorrow, right? Fairly big. We'll all watch it on TV, no big deal. The wind right now is fine, but yes, they're going to start to tap into some of this strong wind from this storm system tomorrow. So the city specifically, there is the chance to see some gusts over 30 miles per hour. So maybe not quite as bad as what we have today, but just know, I mean, what we're dealing with is going to continue to shift eastward. So it will be interesting to see how it impacts some of those balloons for the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade. I know they've dealt with wind in years past. I know there's a criteria, but it could end up getting a little gusty in the city tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be interesting, Stephanie, because I know they have kind of a low flight plan. They have a no flight plan. So I'm kind of glad we had that camera of the balloons, because that might be the only time we see them this Thanksgiving if that wind does hit New York the way we have it here right now. But Stephanie, I imagine people watching right now, especially looking at Saturday, might be worried if that's their travel day, whether that be by the road or by the skies. What are you anticipating as far as those types of conditions? Do you foresee flight delays, flight cancellations? Obviously, you don't work for the FAA, but I'm just curious your opinion.
Don't what? No, I'm just kidding. The potential is there. I think we're really going to start to see a clearer picture tomorrow. But that being said, we started to see some, what's the word? Agreement in models yesterday. And we still see that in models today. So if we see it again tomorrow, that paints a pretty clear picture. At this point, it's going to be a longer duration event, Saturday morning to Sunday morning. There is the potential to maybe see some winter storm warnings here locally, because we could end up seeing more than 6 inches of snow. Again, not talking exact specifics because it is just a little too early, but that's what indications are at this point in time. Longer duration event though, so again, that's not going to fall over 2 hours. That's going to fall over a longer period of time. Doesn't look like we're going to have the wind that we have today, so that's also a plus. But there are still going to be some factors. Exact storm track will be telling. Earlier in the week, it was taking more of a southerly dive, putting a lot of the heaviest snow in Illinois. I haven't seen that again since yesterday morning, so we'll just continue to watch trends. You know, that's the way we forecast. We just really watch trends and watch some of our longer range models, and then some of our shorter range models pick up on these events. And when they all start to agree, that gives us a better picture of what will likely happen. But it is looking very likely we have snow from Saturday morning to Sunday morning. And starting as more of that thicker snow or wetter snow, as temperatures will actually climb a little bit more into the low 30s, maybe even above freezing for a bit, so it's going to be slushy. I will point out though too, when I mentioned the storm track, regardless of if the exact low stays south of us or not, this is going to be what we call a panhandle hook storm, not one of the lows that moves in from Canada. So those Alberta clippers that move in from Canada, they're usually in and out very quickly, bring in a couple inches worth of snow and very cold air. We will get the cold air after this, but the most important thing with these panhandle hooks is that because they're diving south a little bit, they're pulling in all the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. So that's our indication that there is already a chance for some heavy snow. So not great for travel back to Wisconsin from Thanksgiving destinations. It might be one of those situations where you might have to come back Friday instead of Saturday, or wait until later Sunday. So still, some stuff that needs to come together for exact clarity, but it is looking like a stronger storm than what we have impacting us today.
You never know, Stephanie, this could be a good thing. Like maybe you go to Thanksgiving and your family is really frustrating you or annoying you. Yes. And now you can be like, oh, I have to leave early because the snow is coming. It's a valid excuse. It's a real reason to have to leave early.
There you go. And I know a lot of schools, or at least my district, actually doesn't have school on Monday. So that's actually a plus too. Maybe you are enjoying family or enjoying, let's say, Florida. Stay a couple extra days, come back Monday.
Especially, do they want to come back Monday? Because I saw you put the high as 18.
That's true. Yeah, that's not going to be fun, but it'll be dry.
Well, if maybe you've bought a new coat and you've been waiting to really show it off, you can pull it out on Monday with the high of 18.
And we are nearing the holiday season, right? Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I would love to take a poll because I think Wisconsinites want snow this time of year.
Yep.
Rather than in March and April.
Yep.
So that's the other plus.
I always say I'm fine with snow through January 1st, and then I don't want any more of it.
So maybe Mother Nature is just giving us what we want.
We'll take it. That's a great perspective.
It won't be fun, but it'll look pretty.
Look at Stephanie, looking at things on the positive side. We appreciate that. Thanks for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
No problem.
I know it's a busy day for our weather team as they work to forecast that storm system kind of coming in, bringing some snow with it. Hey, I know I was talking about winter coats and pulling it out on Monday, and I think it's just a great reminder here. Our FOX6 Coats for Kids drive is still happening. It goes all the way through December 7th. We had our telethon last week. You guys showed up. You were so generous, raised more than $52,000, which helps us buy 2,000 brand new coats. But the need is big this season, and we still have more kids who are in need of a winter coat. So we would appreciate if you would continue to partner with us and help out if you're able. There are kind of two ways to participate in the 41st year of the FOX6 Coats for Kids drive. The first way would be to scan that code right there on your screen. That's how you make a monetary donation. We partner with Operation Warm, and through that partnership, for every $25 that you donate, we are able to buy a brand new winter coat that actually would retail for about $60. We get a great deal. We're very smart with the money that you guys donate here. We want to stretch it as much as we can. And those coats, they also are on trend. They work with, TJ Maxx, they told us, and Nordstrom to make sure it's the right colors and design that the kids want right now, because they're all about confidence. When you go to school wearing something new and liking what you're wearing, you bring that confidence with you into the classroom, and studies show that they actually do so much better in school. Of course, the other way to participate, if you have a new winter coat that you want to donate, or a gently loved winter coat, you can drop those off at any of the 5 Milwaukee area Steinhoffels, or any of the landmark credit unions, or as the Salvation Army is also a collection site. I always just like to remind you, if you go to the Salvation Army, make sure it's a church or a distribution center. If you donate it to the retail store, it's still a great cause, but it's going to go to the store. It's not going to go to our coat drive. So make sure you're putting in one of those blue kind of buckets. That's how you know you're in the right place, and it will come to our coat drive. And again, if it's a gently loved winter coat, just make sure it's in good condition. We want to make sure that zipper works. We want to make sure there's no holes in the pockets, no tears. What you would send your child to school in is what we want these new coats and these gently loved coats to look like. Just good quality so they go to school nice and warm. The other thing you can donate is brand new winter gear. So we're talking scarves, we're talking hats, we're talking mittens, because obviously in Wisconsin, you need to bundle up, especially again, we are now talking Monday, a high of 18. A winter coat doesn't cut it. You need all those accessories to keep yourself safe in that winter cold. So make sure if you're able to, you can also donate those. Again, the accessories just have to be brand new. I was actually talking with the Salvation Army, and they kind of explained the distribution process, where kids essentially get to go shopping. They have all the coats in racks. You go, you find your size, you get to pick out the one that speaks to you, and then you get to go pick out those accessories. And they say it's so fun to see a child's face light up because they find a Spider-Man hat or a Packers hat, you know, something that they love, that they're excited to wear. So you have shown up already through this coat drive in such a generous way, and we would appreciate if you continue to show up. Again, it runs through December 7th, and there's just a really big need this year, and we want to meet our community in that need. Obviously, kids, they grow fast, so a winter coat that might have worked for a boy or a girl last winter might not even fit them now as they grow and they get bigger. So we want to continue to give them a coat if they are in need. We are going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then coming back, we're going to get you ready, because first it's Thanksgiving and then it's holiday shopping, but we don't want you to fall for any scams. So we've got the experts coming in with all the safety tips you need to know. That's coming up here in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. That first hour honestly flew by. We've been busy with all sorts of news coming out of here in the Milwaukee area, here in Wisconsin, and even really across the country, which I do want to head back out to Kentucky. Of course, this is our Vice President, J.D. Vance. They're serving up some Thanksgiving meals to some of the military members at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. You can also see the second lady there, his wife, Usha, is right. They're serving along. Their kids were there earlier, but you know, kids have a shorter attention span. They might have been over it, so they seem to have gone other places, but the vice president and the second lady is still thanking just different service members this Thanksgiving and giving them a little early feast. We saw there was a beautiful turkey they were carving before, and it looks like maybe Vance is on the mashed potato duty. I think that's what he was scooping up right there on a plate, which does bring the question of what's your favorite Thanksgiving kind of dish. I think I'm gonna go stuffing, but a good mashed potato is also kind of a need for me when it comes to Thanksgiving, which I hope that everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have some plans. There's JD with some more plates ready to scoop. Let's see if it's potatoes. Let's watch together. I think it's mashed potatoes. Now I'm kind of curious. He's nice, he's chatting, but I need to see what he's serving up. Maybe we're not going to be able to see it. I really do think it's potatoes though, you guys. Very fun to kind of check in there, see what they're up to today. As again, we do get ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow, which I'm excited for. I'm gonna go home to the suburbs, spend some time with my family. I'm trying to decide what I should bring, which you're thinking, Haley, shouldn't you have already decided that? I should have already decided that, but I like to, be last minute sometimes when it comes to my Thanksgiving plans. I think I'm gonna make an appetizer. Usually my family likes this one dish that I have, so we'll see if they're a fan of that this year. I keep wanting to see if our feed will give us that fun shot of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade balloons, but it's still down right now. So instead we're going to take a look at this Christmas tree again, just because I think it's really pretty. And you can tell, I mean, the city of New York is still very busy this day before Thanksgiving. Tons of people on the street walking around there. Also, great location. It's right by Radio City Music Hall, which Rockettes, very Christmassy. Then you could have this Christmas tree, 50 feet tall, right outside the Fox kind of headquarters there. So lots to do in NYC. Now I'm really curious if these balloons are going to fly tomorrow. Obviously, Stephanie was just saying that a lot of the wind that we're experiencing here in Milwaukee, which if you're wondering what it looks like, let's go back to the airport, because I just think that this camera shows you how much it's shaking right there. And again, that fog looks like it's kind of back. Visibility seems to have gone down yet again. But a lot of this wind that we're seeing here is kind of making its way to New York, and it's going to be there tomorrow most likely. So we'll have to see how bad the wind is, because I know those balloons, they cannot go up in the air if it's too windy, or sometimes they also do kind of a lower flight plan. So we'll have to see if they go to the B plan, the C plan. Maybe they'll be able to do the A plan for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But right now, we're taking a live look again. Mitchell International Airport, where I would not want to be outside. I'm kind of dreading leaving work here in a little bit, because it's just not looking that pretty. Obviously, there's some snow coming down, wind, fog, just a gray, dreary day outside right now. Let's take a look and see if any of those departures have changed, but I think everything right now should be good to go. We only had one delay, which was Detroit, which I'm slightly concerned, because I'm wondering if these are people that were on their way to Detroit to see the Packers game. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers taking on the Lions tomorrow at noon, which if that was you, your flight should still go off. But let's say you can't make it there. You're just fine. We've got the game for you right here on Fox 6. We want to spend Thanksgiving with you. Tim Van Voren will be live with you, I think in the morning and of course afterwards, because it is a noon kickoff. But the coverage starts here on Fox 6 for the game at 10 a.m. We'll have that Fox NFL pregame. The game will kick off at noon, and then we'll have a special edition of Fox 6 News after the game. But I know a lot of people watching this one as we kind of wind down the seasons. These divisional games are that much more important, and the Green Bay Packers were able to get the win against the Vikings, which was important come Sunday, or last past Sunday. So now we just got to see if we can get this win against the Lions. And of course, after this game, they take on the Bears. They've kind of had nonstop NFC North games, which really matters when you talk playoffs and seeing if you're going to make it or not. So we'll have our eyes on this game, and Tim Van Voren will be there for you. I'll have the very latest, both in our live reports and, of course, after the game in that special edition of Fox 6 News. But yeah, if you're worried about not making it to Detroit, we've got the game for you right here on Fox 6. And I also love the time, because you can put on that pregame as you're starting to cook, and then have the game maybe in the background, depending on when your meal is. I feel like most of them are at 2 p.m. or in the evening, so you can have this on. It'll keep you company while you prepare the feast there for your family. Hey, we're going to just take a very quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I think we're ready to go with our shopping kind of advice to make sure we don't fall victim to any scams. So we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll bring that expert in. Thanks for staying with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It's Haley with you for about the next hour. Then 2:30, Ted Perry will take over and get you guys to 3:30 on this Thanksgiving Eve. Of course, first there's Thanksgiving, then there's Black Friday, then there's Small Business Saturday, then there's Cyber Monday. We want to make sure you have a good shopping experience and you don't become a Grinch if you fall for any of these scams. So we brought in the expert. We're joined right now with Lisa from the Better Business Bureau. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Glad to be here, Haley.
Okay, so I want to start with Black Friday. I know that is a very busy shopping day. A lot of people look forward to it, but we want to make sure that we don't get tricked. So what is your advice for us?
Yeah, they're really expecting a large number of shoppers this year. I'm hearing that we're up about 3 million predicted people shopping on Black Friday. So we know that, between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's the busiest time of the year to shop. And certainly, you do not want to be taken advantage of either in the stores or online. So BBB is here with some tips for sure.
I think one of my tips that you're giving me earlier that really caught my eye was just to read the fine print. I think so often when I think of scams, I'm thinking of somebody behind the computer, but this is a good reminder too that sometimes these deals seem really good because they're marking up the price. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, some retailers do offer an additional percentage off the purchase prices, but they could be excluding certain deals or items like doorbusters, for example. You really do have to watch for the fine print. And if you're shopping online, really take a minute to go into the terms and conditions on the website and read what the terms and conditions are, not just online, but in the stores as well. I mean, you want to know what your options are. Do you have the ability to return the item or exchange the item? Not every store gives you that ability. And online as well, you don't always have the luxury of returning an item. And, sometimes, again, when shopping online, if you do return something that you've purchased or something gotten as a gift, there may be a restocking fee involved. So that's another reason why it's good to check those terms and conditions, read the fine print.
Yeah, I know sometimes too, when I'm online shopping, I might be on a website that I've never been to before. So you guys recommend not just reading the fine print, but also reading reviews. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reviews will give you a good indication of, what you might be up against should you run into a later. And, remember that you have to take it with a grain of salt when you're jumping online and reading reviews. I mean, they're helpful, but it's kind of like the wild, wild west out there. So definitely check with the Better Business Bureau at bbb.org. All of our reviews are vetted and verified. So before you write a review or before it gets posted, we're going to verify that it is a true blue review.
Another piece of advice you have that is pretty simple, but people like me need to be reminded of is set a budget and stick to it. Because sometimes I just get overwhelmed with all the good deals and I feel like I got to get them all.
Yeah, and we hear that from a lot of people all the time because, everybody wants to hit everything on the list for all of their loved ones, and we can't simply do it all. So definitely our advice is start with a list, make a list of the items that you need, the items you want to purchase. And, based on what stores have the best deals for your list, you want to map out your route. Try to follow that route as best as possible. Take heed that some retailers only honor certain sale items early in the morning on Black Friday. Some have, some go all day. Some have limited inventory. They may run out, so be aware of that. And then, of course, like you said, set a budget and try to stick with that as best you can before heading out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know for me, when I do set my budget and I do spend those dollars, it always feels more rewarding when I'm shopping small and shopping local, which is what makes Small Business Saturday such a great idea for us, shoppers and consumers. What are some of your tips to make sure we have the most successful Small Business Saturday?
Yeah, I love Small Business Saturday. I mean, that's, the backbone, of what we're all about is small businesses. That's the day after Black Friday, and it's really the perfect time to stop in person or shop online because you want to support those local independent business retailers, and not just the business retailers, but we want to remind folks that Small Business Saturday, is also all about those coffee shops, the little bakeries, restaurants, Keep in mind that, restaurants especially are selling gift certificates this time of year. And a lot of them offer those rewards, buy 100, get $25 free or something of that nature. Be sure to check with that business because a lot of times those gift cards, the bonus ones, are only good for a short window of time. Maybe 2 months or 3 months or 4 weeks. Maybe just for a year, but definitely check with the business so that the time frame that you can use that bonus gift card.
Yeah, lots of good reminders there. Of course, after Small Business Saturday comes Cyber Monday, which seems a little redundant now that I think so much Black Friday shopping is online. But you've got a couple of really excellent points that I want to hit quickly. First, watch out for phishing scams. What do we need to try and be aware of here?
Yeah, well, busy schedules and increased purchases really make it easier to miss and fall victim to a phishing scam. And we see a lot of these reported on a regular basis to our BBB scam tracker. A phishing scam is when you receive a message that you believe is from a legitimate business or maybe a bank, your credit card company, and it is not. So, you really have to double check that the email or even the text message is coming from the business that it says it is coming from. So sometimes you have to really, double check, call that business directly, make sure that you don't get caught up in a phishing scam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know for me, sometimes maybe I'm making a larger purchase online or I'm just overwhelmed because I've made so many purchases that I think, let me take advantage of that buy now, pay later option. But you say we really got to be smart when we're doing that.
Yeah, and with the phishing scams, you have to really keep in mind that there's almost always going to be a link that you're asked to click on. Be very careful. Once you click on that link, it will ask you for personal information. A lot of times it will ask you for financial information. It might just start with a small fee, saying that you just have to, pay a small shipping fee or, an initial, 99-cent charge, something of that nature. But then they have your banking information. So be very, very wary of that. Look for suspicious correspondence and any phone calls from any unfamiliar phone numbers as well.
And the last piece of advice, Lisa, that I want to get to is protect your deliveries. We make all these purchases online, and then sometimes those porch pirates, they're the ones that end up getting the items.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. Can't say this enough. I mean, Cyber Monday really kicks off our peak package season. You want to be able to track your shipments, consider secure pickup software, know when you're going to be receiving those packages so that you can be waiting for them. Remember that if you're not going to be home when you're expecting a package, have a plan, maybe ask a neighbor to receive that package for you or keep an eye on your porch, get those Ring cameras ready, do everything you can to protect the packages because porch pirates are out there. We see it every year, especially this time of year. People are driving in and around neighborhoods. They're looking for those packages to be sitting on the porches. I know I'm seeing people reporting them on social media, ahead of time. So definitely, protect yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Lots of great advice before all this holiday shopping begins. So we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I think lots of good reminders before we do all that online shopping, especially with the porch pirates. You think it's not going to happen to you. It does. So please make sure you're tracking those the location and when your delivery is going to happen so you can make sure and get that package into your hands and not into the hands of the porch pirates. We are going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Then we're going to be joined by our very own Brett Lemoyne, who actually has some breaking news when it comes to the Morgan Geyser case. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be back with him in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It's Haley Spittler with you here as we approach 1:50 on this Wednesday. And if you were here with us on the Wisconsin Live Desk Monday, we had pretty much nonstop breaking news as it came to the case with Morgan Geyser, who, of course, was able to escape her group home in Madison, make it all the way to Posen, Illinois, before being put back in police custody. We're joined right now with our very own Brett Lemoyne, who has a bit of breaking news for us here. Brett, we now know when Morgan Geyser will be back in front of a Waukesha County judge. What have you learned here?
Yeah, Haley, Wisconsin Live Desk viewers are hearing this first. This happened just a moment ago. A hearing date was set for Morgan Geyser to be back in Waukesha County Court. That court date, December 22nd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, this is pretty critical because we've been talking about this now since Monday, since she was arrested in Posen, Illinois. When will Morgan Geyser be returning to Waukesha County? Yesterday, there was an extradition hearing. She waived that, and now they are kind of waiting for the second shoe to drop, as it were. And I'm told, and court records indicate that Morgan Geyser, her conditional release hearing, her conditional release has now been revoked, or at least is in the process of being revoked. DOC, the Department of Corrections, filed that paperwork yesterday. It is now under seal here in Waukesha County Court. That's important to know because the DOC actually basically oversees her right now, her placement as to where she is and where she will be, for lack of a better word, imprisoned in the meantime before she is able to get back here. So we know from the press conference that was held here in Waukesha County on Monday that the district attorney's office, they do not want her to go back to a group home like she was in Madison that she escaped from on Saturday night. They want her back to be, for lack of a better word, imprisoned at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, where she was sentenced to spend the next 40 years of her life. I want to show you a statement and read it to you here. This is from District Attorney Leslie Basie here in Waukesha County. She gave this statement to us. By waiving the extradition hearing, Ms. Geyser has sped up the process of returning to Waukesha County to face the consequences of violating her conditional release. Our office remains committed to protecting the community and ensuring this case moves forward without delay. Her alleged actions this past weekend only reinforce our position that a conditional release is not appropriate at this time. Of course, this is something that prosecutors here in Waukesha County fought for years. They did not want her conditional release granted, even though Ms. Geyser had petitioned the court 4 times over the last 2 years to be able to leave Winnebago and go to a group home. So lots of developments that have occurred since her arrest in Posen, Illinois, just a few days ago now, Haley.
Yeah, I know, Brett, a lot of people are wondering when she'll be back here in Wisconsin. It sounds like that could be this week or next. I think a lot of people know the Slenderman case, Brett, but for anybody who is watching us who isn't as familiar with Morgan Geyser's name and this situation, can you take us all the way back to 2014 and how we got here to today?
Yeah, Morgan Geyser was just 12 years old when Geyser and another classmate of her, Anissa Wire, stabbed their classmate Peyton Leitner dozens of times, left her for dead here in Waukesha. The case became known as the Slender Man stabbing because Geyser and Wire were allegedly doing these actions to please the fictional character known as Slender Man. It was like an online meme, as it were, that kind of grew into a fan fiction and fan art on the internet. A movie was later made about this particular character. Even that movie got a lot of criticism here in Waukesha County because it was just such a heinous and brutal crime. Ms. Geyser in particular has now spent more than half of her adult life, almost half of her adult life, in confinement at the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. Again, she had petitioned through her attorney, Anthony Cotton, to be able to leave and go to a group home. Cotton and Geyser had said that, she had basically reached all of the privileges that she could at Winnebago, and that this would actually be more beneficial for her because she'd be able to get more one-on-one treatment and have some more freedoms. Her co-defendant, Anissa Weier, she was granted conditional release a few years ago, and so there was kind of a move to maybe have them both on parallel tracks. Obviously, things turned out very differently when on Saturday night in Madison, Morgan Geyser cut off her electronic monitoring bracelet and left her group home in Madison. She ended up traveling with an acquaintance by Greyhound bus to Chicago, Illinois, and then on foot from Chicago to Posen, Illinois, which is about 25 miles south of Chicago. She was found there on a sidewalk outside of a gas station, a truck stop, and an employee, I guess, at the truck stop called police and said, "There's two people that are loitering. Can you come and take a look?" Police came. They questioned Geyser as to what she was doing there and who she was. Initially, Geyser told the police officers a fake name, and then ultimately she told them that she did something, quote, really bad, and that they should Google her name to find out who she is. She gave them her birth name, Morgan Geyser. They obviously found out pretty quickly who she was and took her into custody, and here we are today.
Yeah, and Brett, I do just want to let our viewers know that if they want to watch that body camera footage, we have it in its entirety on fox6now.com, on our Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube page, and on Fox Local. As you mentioned, found with Chad Mecca. Do we have any answers as to how the two of them knew each other yet, Brett?
Well, according to police reports, they knew each other through some sort of church activity, apparently. And from what I understand, that Chad Mecca had been friends with Morgan Geyser for a while now, and so he ended up accompanying her on this bus that they took at some point on Saturday night or Sunday morning as they made their way, into Chicago.
Brett, we were just hearing from Stephanie how windy it is outside, and we can see that right there with the wind kind of pushing you. We appreciate you braving the elements to bring us kind of this breaking news. I do have two more questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go because I feel so bad for how cold I'm sure it is out there. But quickly,
no, it's fine.
I know you were at the press conference Monday when we heard from the Waukesha County DA. She seemed very frustrated about this kind of lapse in notifying the victim's family, lapse in communication between DHS and the Madison police. Have we gotten any answers as to what took so long here?
You know, I would defer that question to my colleague Jason Calvi, who was assigned to cover that element of this specifically, but I can give you a little bit of background. District Attorney Leslie Basie said that her office, the Victims' Rights Office here at the county, actually notified Miss Peyton Leitner, the victim in this case, when Morgan Geyser went missing from her group home. We've come to learn that maybe that was not necessarily the case, that Madison police had actually reached out to the Leitner family, but ultimately she says that the state did not, and again, the state being in charge of Morgan Geyser and her whereabouts and her placement, did not notify the family. So that was one element of perhaps miscommunication here. The other element would be between Madison police and DOC and this group home, and the hours that went by when people did not know, law enforcement did not know that Morgan Geyser was missing. I'm not as clear, Haley, on that matter. Again, that was something that was handled by my colleague Jason Calvi, so I would have to defer to his reporting on that.
Yeah. Brett, we just got the body camera footage, so I'm going to show that to our viewers here while I ask you my final question, which is the big question is Morgan Geyser going to face new charges for escaping and for, damaging that ankle monitor? I know the Waukesha County DA said those charges would have to come out of Dane County. Do we have any update if Morgan Geyser's facing anything new yet?
So I have not seen anything come down, at least through the electronic record for Dane County as it pertains to Morgan Geyser. But yes, when we spoke with and consulted with a couple of different legal experts on this case, who said, it is very likely that not only would she face charges for tampering with her GPS device, but also from fleeing that facility as well. Now that is one thing. The other thing too is what happened in Posen, Illinois, and from what we understand, Posen police say they are not going to charge Morgan Geyser for any crimes in Posen, and that was simply to basically expedite this process of getting her back to Wisconsin. So lots of legal trouble still ahead for Morgan Geyser in a saga that has now been going on for more than a decade here in Waukesha County, and now I guess you could say for the broader part of the state.
Yeah, absolutely. This is certainly, there's a lot going on with this case. It's a long-going case, and it's still going to continue, as you mentioned there, Brett. Again, the biggest news, the breaking news, if you missed it, that Brett told us, is that we now know December 22nd is when Morgan Geyser will be back in front of a Waukesha County judge. Brett, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and stay warm.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, that's the very latest there out of Morgan Geyser. Obviously, a huge breaking news story that started Saturday night when she made her escape. Again, went back into custody in Posen, Illinois. Sunday night is awaiting extradition. She did waive her rights, so that should happen soon. We're told that would either be this week or next week. But we do know for certain December 22nd, she will be in front of a Waukesha County judge. We've covered it from the beginning. We'll continue to cover it. So when it comes to the situation with Morgan Geyser, you can stick with Fox 6 for the very latest. We're going to take a quick break right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then coming up, we're actually going to be joined by Brian Polson on some of his latest stories that have to do with service animals and emotional support animals and how legit some of these services are. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk, where we have had a busy hour and a half, and we are going to continue bringing you some more news here on the Live Desk. Of course, I'll be with you here until 2:30. Ted Perry's taking over after that. He'll get you to 3:30, bringing you kind of the latest news here in Milwaukee, here across the Badger State, across the country, sometimes even the world. We bring you news as it happens. Speaking of that, we are being joined right now by our investigative reporter, Brian Polson. He is in the newsroom because you had a couple stories aired just a few days ago, which we can find on Fox Local in their entirety, but talking about Wisconsin lawmakers really wanting to tighten the leash on fake service animals. So Brian, tell us a little bit about this story and what you uncovered.
Yeah, so I want to start right off the top by saying a couple of things, because as we've covered this issue, I've had a lot of feedback from viewers, from people on social media, from people writing me, and there are two things I want to establish first. There are service animals and there are emotional support animals, and they are not the same thing. And we talk about that at length in these stories. They both play important roles in the peoples they serve, but there are very different rights and responsibilities for each of them. And I'll start with service animals. Now, this all comes up because there was state legislation that was pending when I first started looking into this. It has now passed both houses of the Wisconsin legislature and is awaiting Governor Evers' signature. And that legislation is aimed at kind of reining some of this in. So what we've seen over the years is, first of all, service animals. That is something that is under the Americans with Disabilities Act defined as a dog or a miniature horse. And I don't know where the miniature horses thing comes into play. There's some history of those being trained to help. I think that's more rare. Dogs are typically service animals, and they are dogs that are trained to perform tasks for people with disabilities. They do service work, and sometimes those dogs are trained. It takes tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours to properly train them to provide these services, leading a person who is blind maybe around the streets and out in public, or maybe helping detect someone with seizures. They're about to have one just based on the dog's sense of smell. There are a lot of services that service animals can provide, and under the law they can go anywhere their owners go. So if you see a service animal with their owner out in public and it's a genuine animal, that's not a pet anymore. That is part of them, and they are legally allowed to take that animal anywhere that they are allowed to go as a person in a public place, whether or not it's a place that generally allows pets. Emotional support animals, Haley, are totally different. They are not governed under the Americans with Disabilities Act. They're not even recognized as ADA assistance animals, but they are recognized in a couple of other places. And one we didn't really talk about in the stories, but it used to be, you might remember, we would see a lot of these animals in airports and on airplanes, because the Air Carrier Access Act, I think that's what it's called, AACA, or ACAA? AC, whatever it is, the Air Carrier Access Act. It used to recognize emotional support animals as assistance animals that could fly with their owners as though they were service animals. And so you saw people who were claiming everything was an emotional support animal and taking their dogs and their cats and their turkeys and their snakes onto planes and not paying for them. The airlines said enough is enough, and ultimately the Air Carrier Access Act was changed to no longer recognize ESAs as assistance animals for that purpose. But the one place it still exists is in the Federal Fair Housing Act, where emotional support animals are considered to be assistance animals that deserve a reasonable accommodation. So if you have an ESA, if your doctor or therapist says you need this animal for your mental health disability to function in daily life, then you are allowed to live with that animal without having to pay your landlord extra pet fees or without having to move because your landlord says we don't allow pets. Under the law, that is a reasonable accommodation. But where our story really went, Haley, is we took it a step further looking at, okay, but what makes an emotional support animal an ESA? And that's where this gets a little trickier and where we find maybe some of these questionable ESA letters.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. So we were just taking a look at a clip of some dogs who are wearing those service animal vests, but are clearly not behaving the way a service animal should. And I know you talk about this in your story, that it's so easy now to go online to buy a service animal vest, and then it's kind of tricky for these store owners, these restaurant owners, to know what their rights are when they can tell this is not a service animal. So you kind of explained too in your story, what are they legally allowed to ask in a situation where they're questioning if this is legit?
Well, and that is a tricky place for business owners that want to be accommodating and want to be supportive of people with genuine service animals and with disabilities, but also don't want this law being taken advantage of. So they see someone with a dog in their store and they go, well, what can I really, is that a service animal or not? It sure doesn't look like it's acting like one. What they're legally allowed to ask is this a service animal? That's one question. Number two, they're allowed to ask, what tasks is it trained to perform? And under the ADA, that's it. Because if that's a legitimate service animal, they have to stop there. What I imagine though is in a lot of cases, if these business owners asked, is this a service animal? A lot of people are going to say, no, it's my ESA. It's my emotional support animal. And at that point, the business could, in theory, say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We don't allow ESAs here in the store, and there are no legal rights for them to be in stores. It does get tricky though, because restaurants and taverns and others, they get caught in a spot where even though they may have the legal right to say, we'd like you to leave, they're concerned that it may turn into a controversy. Maybe somebody's going to file a lawsuit, or maybe there's this viral social media post that such and such business doesn't believe in emotional support animals, or they don't support us. So they feel like they're caught. And I think for many of the ones we talk to, they want to see legislation like that that's been proposed, that's pending before Governor Evers, because it would give a little more weight to them being able to say, look, there's a fine for doing this. If you misrepresent that animal as an emotional support animal, it's not even one of those, there's a fine, and frankly, you don't have the right to be here. I think they look at it as a deterrent to this kind of behavior, and it is a problem we hear about. People with legitimate service animals are having untrained animals attack them in stores or in public places, and that could be a real problem for people with genuine disabilities.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's important to note, I mean, service animals do play such an important role for their owners. I mean, sometimes it is alerting them before a medical issue happens. So when you have these untrained dogs that are interfering with that, it can be a dangerous situation. Talking there about service animals, want to switch gears a little bit back to ESAs, which I know you were hinting at. Obviously, again, emotional support animals are also a real thing, but to your point, people have kind of found it as a loophole when it comes to avoiding dog fees for your apartment, dog rent, or getting your dog in a complex that doesn't allow it. So they've been turning to getting these ESA letters. But you're finding that some people are getting letters from psychologists and therapists they've never even met in real life. Tell me more about that investigation.
So when the Federal Housing Administration, HUD, first said that the Housing and Urban Development said that they recognized emotional support animals as animals that deserve this sort of, whose owners deserve this reasonable accommodation, it launched sort of a whole cottage industry of these online businesses selling letters that say your animal's an emotional support animal and you need this accommodation, so you can go tell your landlord, sorry, I'm not paying the extra pet fees, or sorry about your no pets rule, I get to live with my cat, bird, dog, snake, whatever it might be. And these online places, many of them are charging $50, $100 for this letter and turning it around in less than a day, maybe in a matter of hours. The question then becomes, what kind of genuine mental health evaluation is being done to determine that you really need this animal, that it is an emotional support animal, and that you have a qualifying mental health disability? For our story, we actually looked at one of these letter writing services that's based right here in Wisconsin, in fact in Elm Grove in Waukesha County. And while they have an office address in Waukesha County, they pretty much exist online. Nonetheless, we talked to the owner about it. They sell these letters for $49. It was actually $93 when you add in some other fees. We had a producer who applied, and I actually have the letter she got within less than 24 hours. She filled out about 80 questions, Haley, online. Questions like, you know, are you stressed? Often, always, never, sometimes. You know, how does that affect your daily life? Are you having difficulty with, you know, sleep and other things? Questions I think we've all probably asked in some sort of a screening evaluation before or answered. She gets a letter back, and it says, and this is from a licensed psychologist, it says, I have evaluated, our producer, and her responses to this self-assessment. I find she meets the clinical criteria for a mental or emotional disability. And I want to point out, emphasize that last word. This isn't just, I looked at some questions and it looks like this person might be depressed sometimes, or this person might be sad, or maybe they have some diagnoses. I find this person meets the criteria for a disability. And they did this with questions. It goes on to say, due to this disability, that this producer has certain limitations related to social interaction, stress and anxiety, coping with the activities of daily living, and ultimately says this person would benefit from being allowed to maintain an emotional support animal and should have that as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. All of that's from a questionnaire. Adrian, our producer, never met this psychologist, never talked to her on the phone, never had a telehealth visit, nothing. And here's a mental health declaration determination, a disability determination. And that's really what our story looked at, is how does that happen? And does this really live up to the standard of mental health care that you would expect for something like this?
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, how quickly Adrian, our producer, was able to fill out those questions, how quickly she was able to get the letter be deemed that she needed an ESA. And I know, to your point, that's what lawmakers want to stop. I know you mentioned some legislation. What are their ideas to really tighten the leash on this and stop letting these ESA letters just be handed out so easily?
What they'd like to do, what these lawmakers, what they've actually, I say they'd like to do, they've already passed this, like I say, in both the Assembly and the Senate, but what this legislation would do is it would, number one, allow landlords to require documentation. So you say you want this reasonable accommodation for your emotional support turtle, and I say, okay, first, can I see the documentation? So then you provide that letter. It also gives them the right to follow up with the healthcare provider who issued it, so you can ask some questions. That is step one. And by the way, if you provide false documentation of something like that, you could face a $500 fine under this law. The healthcare provider providing false documentation could also face that $500 fine. But to try to really rein this in, they just want to establish a minimum of a 30-day relationship. Let's just make sure this is a therapist you've been seeing for a month, not somebody you just met online and got something overnight. Someone you've been at least seeing in therapy for a month, a doctor you've known for a month. 30 days is the limit. Now, I've talked to critics of this around the country who say this has been tried in some other states, and honestly, they can get around this too. They find ways around it, but it does at least add a barrier. And the idea is to try to get away from this idea that simply filling out a few questions and writing a letter and sending it to you constitutes mental health care and a disability determination.
I know you said this piece of legislation now goes to Governor Evers' desk. Do we have any indication if he's going to sign it?
I have reached out to the governor's office twice. I have not heard back, so we don't know what the governor plans to do. And I will say that in the committee process, there were some Democrats who raised questions about this. One was from Milwaukee. Ryan Clancy said he was concerned that this 30-day requirement would kind of squeeze out people who don't have healthcare coverage and aren't able to get to a therapist for a 30-day relationship, but otherwise might be able to get one of these other letters. So he was concerned that people who have these legitimate ESA needs might be squeezed out by this process. That was one of the things he said. We also heard from Disability Rights Wisconsin, but they didn't really speak to the ESA piece of this. They spoke to the service animal part, and they said with regard to service animals, they were concerned because the legislation had some requirements, including one that a service animal be trained by a professional trainer. ADA does not require that. You can have a self-trained animal qualify under the ADA as a service animal, and I know Disability Rights Wisconsin was concerned about that piece. They also raised just concerns about how do you enforce this? If you see a dog sitting at a table at a restaurant and the restaurant owner doesn't think that's a real service animal, and they can only ask those two questions, if the person responds, yes, it's a service animal, and they have a task they say they're trained to do, how do you prove it's not? Do you call the cops? How do the cops prove it's not? They had some concerns about people who have legitimate animals, service animals, being harassed because of this law. But I talked to people with service animals. Many of them said they really like this because they're tired of seeing the dogs that shouldn't be out in public misbehaving, pulling on their owners' leashes, getting in other dogs' faces, and it's troubling to them. I heard from a disabled American veteran who said he can't go out in public with his service animal anymore because of all of the dogs that are misbehaving and making it hard for him. So there are certainly some divisions over this, but again, whether or not Governor Evers is going to listen to those who have concerns or whether he's going to sign it, it passed on a voice vote in both the Assembly and the Senate, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll certainly keep our eye on that. Your story again on Fox Local, so we can watch both of them in their entirety. Brian, we appreciate you joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to get to some breaking news. Otherwise, I probably could have chatted with you about this for a very long time. But thanks for joining us here and providing the latest on your investigation. Well, as I just mentioned to Brian, there is some breaking news that I want to get out to. This is out of D.C. You can see there on the background, that is the White House you're seeing, and you're seeing some flashing lights on the street in front of that, and that is because we are being told that 2 National Guard members have been shot in D.C., obviously very close there to the White House. Right now, we do not know the condition. This is from our sister station in D.C. reporting that according to officials, we are told that now the scene is secured. The D.C. Police Department confirming that, as well as confirming that 1 suspect is in custody. This is obviously a breaking news situation. We are working to get more details, more information, a lot to learn here. We're told that the scene we're looking at is kind of 17th and I Street. It's in the Farragut Square area. Originally, the D.C. Police Department was tweeting out, or posting on X, that this was a critical incident. They asked everybody to avoid the area. They say more updates will come. Again, since then, they've said that the scene is now secure, that there is a suspect in custody. What we know right now, 2 National Guard soldiers shot. Again, we do not know what their condition is. We are working to learn how those soldiers are doing, if they are okay. We do know, again, the suspect is in custody. The scene is secured. We're told that there's a large response here, as you could imagine, from emergency vehicles, from the Joint DC Task Force, from the Washington Bureau of even Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive. They all reportedly responded to the incident as well. I want to actually see if we can get, our sister station is doing some interviews right now from people who might have seen this happen. So I'm going to get that up. We're going to listen in. It looks like they're going to start momentarily. Again, this is live news, so we'll listen in and see what this witness says she saw.
Everything that was unfolding. Stacey, tell us a little bit about what time did this all happen and what did you hear and see at the moment?
It was about 2:15 p.m. I was going to my lunch break, heading to the Ronald Reagan building to go to the dry cleaners. I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help," in the direction of the shooting. But I don't know if it was the shooter or if it was someone trying to help the shooter. I had to take out my contacts because my eyes were irritated. But the Uber driver did say to me the individual who did the shooting had a hood on over their head. And I thought to myself, I had literally just said to the Uber driver, "It's such a beautiful day." So then the Uber, and I said, "Why would someone have a hood?" So that to me makes me feel like maybe the individual planned this. And then the police response or Secret Service guarded men, professional level, government level, quickly came from all directions running.
Yeah, how long from you hearing the noises that you heard and the booms that you heard before there was like police presence coming out here?
It was seconds. We're on the street, and they immediately told us, "You have to turn around. You have to turn around." Yeah, it was within seconds. Like, I was super impressed.
Did you see the person that was running, it says in the hood, did you see anybody down on the ground? Is all the extent of the injuries?
No, I only saw the individuals who were running in the opposite direction, the children and the little children. They looked like they were only 5.
What kind of emotions is that stirring you in that moment, seeing everything unfold?
I thought to myself, it was a beautiful day. A beautiful day. It's the holidays. Imagine these little children, something would have happened to them. Like, that's heartless. No parent wants to bury their child. And it was so many. The little children were on both sides of the street.
How long before you feel that they got this place safe and contained? Because right now everything is pretty much blocked off.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about that. So I did go to the Ronald Reagan building to pick up my stuff from the dry cleaners. And I had to get out the Uber to walk back now because everything is blocked. And I didn't expect that. I thought I was going to come back this way in my Uber, everything was going to be resolved. And like I said, it occurred around 2:15, so it's definitely something major that happened. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Have you talked to any police or any security on what you did see here?
No, I have to get back to work. Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Stacey, thank you very much for sharing what you saw and witnessed here tonight. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, if you are just joining us, we continue to follow some breaking news out of D.C. We were just hearing from a witness describing what she heard from an Uber, saying she heard shots fired and then kind of people just running. Again, this is breaking news. There's still a lot to learn. So I want to just let you know again what we do have confirmed from Washington, D.C. police, according to our sister station there. What we know is that 2 National Guard soldiers have been shot. We do not know their condition. We don't know how they are doing, if they are okay. That is something that we are working to learn. We do know that 1 suspect is in custody, and police have said that this is now a secured scene. I want to take you back to that kind of closer shot of the road where you can see a lot of flashing lights. Now, this is very close to the White House. Just a few blocks from that, you can certainly see this is a very active scene. There is a lot of members of law enforcement there. While we were watching that interview happen, you might have noticed, and you can see it again here, there is a lot of crime scene tape blocking off this intersection where we're told this happened. Again, very close to the White House. We do know that President Donald Trump is reportedly at his West Palm Beach golf course right now while this shooting took place. So he is not in D.C. despite this happening so close to the White House. Again, working to learn a lot of information here, especially as to the condition of those 2 National Guard soldiers. According to that witness, which again, none of this is on the record, none of that is verified police. She said that suspect was wearing a hood. She said she saw just a lot of children running, which broke her heart, being that Thanksgiving is tomorrow. This is the time of holidays. We're already starting to hear from different leaders. So I want to actually bring up here Secretary Kristi Noem's statement that she just put on X moments ago. She says, please join me in praying for the 2 National Guardsmen who were just shot moments ago in Washington, D.C. DHS Gov is working with local law enforcement to gather more information. Again, all we know right now, and as Kristi Noem is confirming, is that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C. I want to take you back to that kind of closer look at the crime scene here. If you're just joining us, this happened a little bit ago. Those 2 soldiers shot. We're working to learn their condition. We do know from D.C. police that this scene is now secure. Before they were asking everybody to avoid it, they do confirm 1 suspect is in custody. If you're familiar with the D.C. area, we're told this is 17th and I Street in the kind of Farragut Square area. I want to see, actually, this will help put it in perspective. You can see those flashing lights there in the middle of your screen, and then you can see the White House near the middle top, just to tell you how close this was to the White House. But I want to take you now back out to that kind of ground view of the scene there. Again, we're told President Trump is not in the area. We're told he is in Palm Beach at a golf course right now. So not near this shooting, but you can see it here on the street, just the level of response from law enforcement officers. Again, we're told emergency vehicles, which we can see. We can actually see a Secret Service car right there in front of us, the Joint DC Task Force. We're told the Washington Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives are all on scene here reporting to this incident. We're told from, now we have a spokesperson speaking for the mayor there of DC, saying local leaders actively monitoring the situation. We're still waiting to hear from other kind of officials here. Again, I'll bring up this statement from Kristi Noem, who's the first one we've heard from, acknowledging what happened here in D.C., saying, please join me in praying for the 2 National Guardsmen who were just shot moments ago in Washington, D.C. Again, they are working with local law enforcement to gather more information. So we have our sister station in D.C. who's on scene there. If you were with us, that's who was interviewing somebody who says that they witnessed what happened. She said she was in an Uber when she heard a couple of shots being fired before kind of just a chaotic scene of people running, trying to make sure that they were in a safe space. She describes the suspect as somebody who was wearing a hood. But again, none of that is confirmed on the record. What is confirmed, 2 National Guard soldiers shot. Again, condition not known yet. And we are told that a suspect is in custody. I'm checking right now with the Associated Press. They are reporting just as of 24 seconds ago that President Trump is aware of this situation. That is from a statement coming from the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She says the White House is aware and actively monitoring this tragic situation. The president has been briefed. And again, we're told that Trump was at his West Palm Beach golf course when this shooting took place. He's obviously back at his home at Mar-a-Lago for the Thanksgiving holiday. Again, a lot of people might be concerned with hearing that just because of how close this is to the White House, which again, I'm going to take you back to the other kind of bird's eye view, which, if we just zoomed out slightly, you'd be able to see the White House. It's at the kind of the top of your screen there. But you can see from the air there a little bit more of this intersection that is just surrounded right now by flashing lights. So again, emergency vehicles on scene, responding, all sorts of agencies. I want to see if there's anything new here from the AP. We are told that hundreds of National Guard members from the district and several states have been patrolling the nation's capital after President Trump in August issued an emergency order. Again, this was a couple of months ago. It was all about cracking down on crime, making it D.C. a safer space. There's been a lot of National Guard members there. We're still working to learn who these soldiers were or are, where they came from. Again, we're also working to learn their condition. But we are told that suspect is in custody here. So obviously this is a very big breaking news situation. We'll have to see if our sister station does any more interviews with people who might have witnessed what happened, who can provide some more information. We're also monitoring, of course, DC police, their X account, where they were providing a lot of information there as this kind of happened for a minute. They said that they wanted everybody to avoid this area. They have since said that it's, again, secure. So we have just been monitoring this here for the last couple of minutes as we cover this breaking news out of DC. And I think it's so sad. You heard the witness say it herself, that her heart broke because this is the day before Thanksgiving. It's the holidays, the time you want to be with your friends and family. And now 2 National Guard soldiers shot near the White House. I want to take us back now because you can see the White House again in this kind of aerial view shot. Just to show you the proximity, when we say that this happened near the White House, this really paints the better picture because you can see the flashing lights there in the middle of your screen, and then you see the White House just a few blocks away there in D.C. So if you're just joining us, I'm going to do a recap again. We're working to learn more information. We don't know a ton right now. What you're looking at right now is the response from emergency personnel to this scene in D.C., where we are told 2 U.S. National Guard members were shot moments ago. Again, we know the president has been briefed. We know that the condition right now of those soldiers is not known, but we do know that the scene is secured and 1 suspect is in custody. Again, this is 17th and I Street in the Farragut Square area. We have already heard from Kristi Noem. We've heard from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt that they are aware that they're working to get new information. Same thing from the D.C. mayor, also saying that she's working with local leaders, actively monitoring this situation. So here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to continue to monitor this breaking news and bring you any updates as we learn more about these 2 National Guard soldiers and their condition, and potentially more about that suspect that is in custody. So we'll continue monitoring this. We are going to take a very quick break. Ted Perry is going to take over here. He'll get you to 3:30, and he'll continue to monitor this breaking news as well. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll continue to cover this breaking news out of D.C.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ted Perry with you at 2:33 on this Thanksgiving Eve. It's going to be a very busy hour here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Got a lot to talk about. We have a weather situation brewing. It's going to affect some travel, either on your way out or your way back from your holiday. We're going to get to Stephanie Barrichello. We're going to have a little fun with a manners expert because the holidays can be stressful. And the one thing that you can help get through it is to be a little bit polite to fellow travelers, to family members, to yourself. We're going to talk about etiquette in the holidays. We've got a good guest coming up for that. But we have to begin with some really heartbreaking news here out of Washington, D.C. Excuse me while I grab my notepad, but I can tell you that 2 National Guard members have been shot in Washington, D.C., close to the White House, just outside the White House complex. The scene is at 17th and 8th H, as in Henry Streets, Northwest, if you know the layout of Washington, D.C. at all. I'm going to show you an aerial view of the scene right here. We can tell you this, 2 National Guard members. We don't know where they're from. Still trying to find that out. Were shot. One of them, we are understanding, according to the Associated Press, is in critical condition. The suspect is in custody. The suspect was also shot. So I'm reading to you here from the Associated Press. Emergency medical personnel transported all 3 victims to a hospital. President Trump is at his West Palm Beach golf course when the shooting took place. White House says he is monitoring the situation. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer writing on social media that he is closely monitoring the shooting. And Trump said a few moments ago that, and we're quoting now on social media, he wrote, "The animal who shot the guardsman will pay a very steep price." The president goes on to say, "God bless our great National Guard, all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people." That was from President Trump on Truth Social, and we are watching that. I want to also show you the scene. We'll take you to, this is, it's a little bit of chaos, as you might imagine. This is from our affiliate in Washington, D.C. there, FOX5 WTTG. And according to the White House, Caroline Leavitt, the White House is aware of the situation, actively monitoring it as well. A spokesperson for Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser says local leaders are actively monitoring the situation. Bowser just announcing yesterday that she will not seek a 4th term as Washington's mayor. So you can imagine D.C., like any city, busy during the holidays. Maybe some people take a break. They want to do a family getaway. They live on the East Coast. Perfect time to go visit the museums, the Smithsonian, the Air and Space, you name it, the Black Holocaust Museum, so many great tourist sites in Washington, D.C. And this is not far from the White House complex where you're looking at here. You see swarms of transit police and D.C. police, and I'm sure federal law enforcement officers all on the scene. We're not hearing a lot of witness accounts just yet, so we don't know what led up. We don't know if it was a confrontation. We don't know if it was a planned attack. We don't know if it was a spontaneous thing. So much to learn here, but we do know a suspect is in custody right now. We don't know anything about that person. We don't know their gender, age, nationality. We don't know anything about them at this point. Of course, all these facts will come out, and we will try to separate the wheat from the chaff and give you only information that's been confirmed here as we lead up. I also want to show you that we are waiting to hear from Vice President J.D. Vance, who is in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was there as kind of a morale boost for troops, handing out turkeys, and this is a live shot at the lectern there at Fort Campbell. You can see this is a live shot. You can see some of the troops right there in the front row who are waiting to hear from the Vice President on this Thanksgiving Eve. So a lot happening, and I think the shot I want to keep showing you here, let's go to router 2 because I don't know if we're going to hear from a witness. Yep, I'm going to pop this up, so let's give a listen.
Do you want to shoot back this way, the police?
Yeah. My husband's like,
I'll check. Yes.
And again, this is the beauty of the Wisconsin Live Desk. You see news unfolding as it happens. So this is our Fox 5 reporter, from our Fox affiliate in D.C. She is waiting to go live. Apparently, I'm guessing with that woman there on the right, who I'm presuming to be a witness of some sort. So we're just going to stay on this, because the second they get to go, you're going to get this information as quickly as anyone else, which again is one of the strengths here of the Wisconsin Live Desk. You can see the news as it's happening. So she is waiting. I'm just going to listen in here with you as we eavesdrop. I can just tell you, from knowledge here of how this all works, she is waiting to go live on Fox 5 in D.C. And she is talking to her producer back there, giving instructions on what she's got. And this is kind of how it's done when it's all happening so quickly.
So, Homa, we were further down, and the police, they just pushed everybody back up to 16th Street. They wanted to expand the area where they're doing this investigation, and you saw the heavily presence there. They were moving those ropes back. All of the media, there's dozens of media out here covering this, trying to figure out what is going on as this is unfolding right here in front of us, just again a block from where Bob's at the White House. So they did push everybody back a block, and that included everybody that was out there kind of just curious as what was going on. We came across Trisha. Trisha said you heard sirens and she was in the area wanting to check out the White House. What was just your reaction when you heard everything that was kind of going down?
At first we just heard sirens and didn't think much of it. We continued to walk. We were working our way to another metro station, and then security obviously was getting tighter. We asked one of the Secret Service agents if this was temporary or normal security, and he said temporary. And then we just happened to walk upon is it Farragut Square, where all this was happening.
And you're from Georgia. What brings you up to D.C. for the holidays?
Our son lives here, so we're visiting him. He's working today. So
when you're talking to people down there that are going on, what are people saying out of their curiosity with such the presence that's going on here?
We didn't really hear anything.
Yeah. What's just your reaction to kind of this unfolding and knowing that, there's a shooter and there's been injuries as well to National Guard?
It made us wonder if we needed to get out of the area quickly. The other side is there's so much security and police presence here now, we figure it's fairly safe.
And what have you been able to do so far in D.C. before this?
We went to the Portrait Museum today and had lunch.
Any concerns on safety as you continue on?
We had no concerns on safety, and I feel fairly safe.
Okay. All right, thank you. Of course, a part of that feeling safe is that there is such a heavy presence here. We've heard so many different people that I've talked to, some of them that didn't want to go on camera, trying to say what they saw, what they heard at the time. It's just a lot of speculation because some numbers have been very differing from one to the next. But again, we continue to wait to see what information more we do have coming out on what actually took place here, aside from what we already have, Homa.
A reporter out of D.C., a local reporter with our Fox affiliate there, Fox 5, WTTG. She was interviewing a woman from Georgia who heard the sirens, who heard the aftermath, but did not see the actual incident. And if you're just joining us now on the Wisconsin Live Desk at 2:43, we can tell you that 2 National Guard members are in critical condition right now after being shot at about 1 o'clock our time, 2 o'clock on the East Coast. The suspect also has been shot. We don't know by whom. We don't know if it was law enforcement or Guard members themselves. But we know that that suspect is also in a D.C. hospital. All 3 people who were hit by gunfire, the 2 guardsmen and the suspect, We don't know if they're in the same hospital, but they've all been taken to D.C. area hospitals. And the two suspects are in, the two guardsmen, I should say, are in critical condition. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we take a look at this scene here, and you can see where it's all happening. This is at 17th and H, as in Henry Streets, Northwest, near the White House. In fact, you can see the White House in that shot there, with the flag blowing dead center of that shot. You can see the top floor and the roof of the White House there. So this was very close to the president's residence. The president not in town. He left for Mar-a-Lago, his Florida estate, yesterday. Vice President Vance not in D.C. either. He is at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, as you take a shot at Kid Rock here, who's going to be the hype man for the vice president. He's talking to troops there, and we're back at the scene. Sorry about that. I took you back to D.C. a little quickly there. That was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and singer Kid Rock, who has been a staunch supporter of the Trump administration, greeting the troops there. We're waiting for more information. We don't even have word of an official news conference yet, so I am watching the Associated Press wires very closely. I'm reading the Washington Post here as I talk to you, looking for any new vetted information we can share with you. I want to tell you, and I'm sort of telling our producer, if I could go to Stephanie Barrichello in the next minute or so to get an update on our weather, I would like to do that before we bring in our guest to talk about holiday etiquette. And while we are also keeping an eye, we're juggling a couple balls here, folks. That's the whole point of the Wisconsin Live Desk, is to take you around and show you the news as it's happening, and this is certainly happening in front of us in Washington, D.C. A very sad situation here. 2 National Guardsmen shot in critical condition. All right, then. Let's go right to Stephanie Barrichello right there. And Steph, I hope I have your mic up.
Hello?
There we go.
Okay, good.
I'm just going to let you take it, because when I drove in, I went for a walk today because I just felt like punishing myself a little bit, and boy, did I get it. That wind coming strongly out of the west, am I correct? It's not a northwest wind. It seems to be a straight west wind, and any flag, any windsock, any leaves in our area were blowing west to east.
Yeah, you got it. Kind of going back and forth between west and northwest, but it's strong regardless of the direction, Ted. We've already had gusts over 50 miles per hour at times. Trees bending back and forth, the wind pushing all the snow around too. That's been the biggest story for today here locally, is more so the wind. You know, we have the system rolling through right now, big pressure drop. It's bringing in some snow showers. Most of the impactful snow is in northern Wisconsin right now, but we do still have some here locally. In fact, I was looking at this camera right here. In fact, I'll step to the other side. This is our camera in Newburgh, so you can see that there is actually some snow coating grassy surfaces. You can see it on the roof. This is actually a school in the area, so you can see it on the rooftop. Here at the station, we've got a coating on the weather deck. We've got a coating on the grass as well. Most of our roadways and our pavement doing okay right now, but keep in mind temperatures are going to continue to tumble throughout the evening. So snow will eventually end, but in the meantime, we could start to see a little bit more of that slush on any untreated pavement. It's also been really reducing visibility as of the last hour to 2 hours. Right now, you can see some of our northern communities below that 1 mile mark, and not much better towards West Bend and Port Washington. So some of these northern communities where there's a winter weather advisory in effect until 6 o'clock, they're getting in on some of that heavier snow at the moment. And we're looking at some of those darker purples. You can kind of see them moving into Fond du Lac and Sheboygan right now. But we ourselves in Milwaukee have had some period of time where the visibility has been low as the snow is picked up a little bit. And then again, this is the wind-driven snow right now.
Stephanie?
Yes.
I am so sorry to do this to you, but J.D. Vance is talking to troops at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Oh, go ahead. Absolutely.
Then we're going to take a break after that. We'll come back with our guest.
Perfect.
Maybe you and I could rendezvous around 3:15 or so.
All right, I'll be ready.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we want to get to the
Totally
Vice
fine,
President.
Ted.
All right, Stephanie Barrichello, thank you for your patience.
Many of you for spending time away from your families here this day before Thanksgiving. And I want to give just a few shout outs to some of our special guests before we get started. First of all, To General Travis McIntosh and Command Sergeant Major Charles Walker, thank you guys for leading this incredible facility, and thank you for serving in the United States Army and making us proud. Where are you guys? Please stand up and be recognized. Thank you all. We've got my dear friend, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Marsha, please stand up and say hello. And we also have Congressman Rose. Where is Congressman Rose? Please stand up. Thank you, Congressman. It's good to see you.
Okay, we're going to interrupt the Vice President because he has not gotten to the heart of his remarks just yet. This is the part where they go around and introduce VIPs, but there's a lot to talk about today. We are monitoring his speech to troops at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We are quite certain he has been briefed of the situation. We'll see if he can share anything with us. But right now, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to change tone here when we come back in the break, because there's something we all need to do this holiday season, and that is to be nicer and more polite and more patient with each other. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with a very special guest. You are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk on a Wednesday, a blustery Wednesday on this Thanksgiving Eve. Stay with us. A lot more to come in this hour.
Okay, sounds good.
Camera one, my mic. Okay. Miss Gould, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can, and it's a great shot, a good background there.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, everybody. Ted Perry with you in the Wisconsin Live Desk. I want to take you out to Washington, D.C. real quickly, show you the scene of the big breaking news we are monitoring today as you look at 2 or 3 National Guard members walking away from the cameras there. This is from our Fox 5 affiliate in D.C., WTTG. They are on the scene near 17th and H Northwest, not far from the White House, where 2 National Guard soldiers were shot at about 1 o'clock our time. The Associated Press reporting that both are in critical condition. The suspect also shot, we don't know by whom, but also in a D.C. area hospital. And I want to just pipe in real quick to J.D. Vance, who's down at Fort Campbell, see if he's talking about it.
Quantico a few months ago that I think is one of the best speeches that I've heard about the United States military, because he was talking about the incredible esprit de corps, and he was talking about the importance of holding the United States Army and all of our branches of the military.
Okay, he has still not addressed the shooting in D.C., and if he does, we'll certainly get that. The president is aware of it. He is down at Mar-a-Lago. And he has issued a statement saying whoever paid for this, he said, whoever, and I quote now, whatever animal did this will pay a steep, severe price for it. I want to change things up a little bit. The holidays are upon us. They can bring on a lot of stress. They can bring on financial stress, familial stress, work stress, travel stress. And there's not a lot you can do about so much of that, except handle how you handle it and how you react to it. And one of the best ways to do that, and I think our guests will agree, is that you can be as polite as possible. I want to welcome in Callista Gould. She is the founder of the Culture and Manners Institute. She's joining us from Fond du Lac. Thank you, first off, for joining us on this Thanksgiving Eve. And I love the name, Culture and Manners Institute. It's like a think tank of manners.
Thank you very much, Ted. I appreciate you having me. It's great to be here.
Give me a little background on you. How did you become a maven of manners?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've got kind of a marketing and PR background, but I was working for a tech company in New York, and I was reading all the articles in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times about how etiquette was kind of an up-and-coming field. And I thought, well, that sounds like a fun area. But I thought, I really like my tech job in New York. So, but then my father became ill back in Iowa, where I'm from. And so I had to go back to Iowa to help take care of my parents. And so I started the etiquette business then. I went for training at a program down in St. Louis called the Etiquette Institute. And it was terrific. And I just took off from there. It gave me time to have flexible hours around my parents' care schedule. And it was perfect. I love it.
Manners can take on many, many different looks. I mean, we can be talking about which salad fork to use and which, butter fork to use. I'm not all that interested in that because I'm going to eat my salad with whatever fork is closest to me, and I'm going to eat my soup and try not to slurp it out of the bowl. But aside from that, I'm really interested in the interpersonal way that we treat each other. And let's start, if we could, with travel, because Secretary Duffy, Transportation Secretary, just this week kind of said, and I'm paraphrasing a little, I don't want to say he admonished travelers because that's not fair to him, but he did say, hey, maybe we shouldn't fly in pajamas, okay? And he's getting some pushback on that. But I got to tell you, as somebody that when he does fly, I don't really want to see other people's feet. I don't necessarily want to see their legs, and I would like them to be well-groomed and hygienic, and I don't think that's asking so much. Can you talk about his comments and what reaction you have to his sort of plea to like, hey, why don't we dress up and learn to be a little more civil to each other because traveling is stressful enough? What were your thoughts on his saying that? Because I've never heard a cabinet secretary talk about being more civil and polite and well-dressed.
As a person who has traveled a lot, especially by air, I was in complete agreement with him because people behave abysmally on airplanes. Terrible, especially what he actually nailed it when he said the people that put their bare feet up on the seat arm of the people in front of them. That drives me crazy. It's like, ugh. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe as is. And so when I get somebody's barefoot on my armrest, that's a little unsettling. Or they'll put it on the back of your seat and they'll be pushing the back of your seat with their feet.
Why do you think people do that? We weren't taught to do that as children. Why do adults think that's okay, do you think? What has happened to us that people are putting their bare feet on the armrest in front of them and nudging people in front? Are we just fed up? Do we think we're entitled? Do we think airline travel is too expensive so we can do what we want? What is your research, if any, shown, or your thoughts on why this is happening?
I think what it is that there's a misunderstanding of what etiquette is. Etiquette is not a bunch of stuffy rules, designed to confine. The purpose of etiquette is to be aware of the people around us and attentive to their needs. So what we're seeing now is a lack of awareness of the people around us. It's like it's all about me and my space, and you don't think of the other people that are around you. Another thing that people do on airplanes is sometimes they wear heavy cologne or perfume. That's terrible because some people are very sensitive to scents, and to be sitting next to somebody, where's the oxygen mask? So that's another thing. And then personal grooming on the plane, when somebody's clipping their fingernails or something with the nail clippers. Ugh.
How do you suggest we handle that? It's a tense world out there. People can escalate a situation like that. How do you say, while respecting your own boundaries and not being aggressive, hey, I'm sorry, could you not do that right now? It's just not acceptable. I think we're afraid to speak up. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I want to tell people, that's not cool how you're acting, but I don't want to cause a scene either. Or we just have to grin and bear it, or is there a way to deal with that?
You know what? On an airplane, I think it's actually best to let the flight attendants deal with it. You can bring it to their attention, but they are experts in this and handling these situations. So it's better not to try and solve it on our own and get into an argument and escalate, in the air. You never know how that person's going to respond. So sometimes I would say if it's your own family member, yes, you try and solve it yourself. But if it's a total stranger on an airplane, you let the flight attendants deal with it.
Okay, here we are on Thanksgiving Eve.
One thing I should add about
go ahead,
that,
please.
Kill your flight attendants with kindness.
Oh, yeah.
Say hi, hello when you welcome, and thank you on the way out. You should they have a very difficult job. I mean, consider everything they have to do, and and in that tiny little aisle, and dealing with all these different issues that people have. But be good to your flight attendants.
Yeah, I always like to get out and say hello and go, I promise I'll be low maintenance and I'll be in seat 27B or whatever. Make them laugh a little bit. So many people just ignore them, like they're a statue or something. Okay.
I'll tell you what, I always get mistaken for the flight attendant on the plane, so I try not to wear scarves and navy blue jackets.
I was about to say, could I get a water and a blanket?
They're down there.
Very good. It's Thanksgiving Eve. I'm working tomorrow, so I'll be here. But let's say you're going somewhere tomorrow, even in the best of the situation where you're looking forward to it, and they say it starts at 3. What should people do? How early should they get there? Does 3 mean 3? Does it mean 2:45? Does it mean 3:15? Talk about promptness. Talk about appearance. Talk about what we should know if we're going even to a family member's house, but especially maybe you're going to a Friendsgiving or a coworker has invited you. We work in the news business. There's a diaspora there from all over, and they're far away from home. So we have, sometimes Friendsgiving. Talk to us about the manners of showing up on time and bringing a gift.
I think it's good to show up, give yourself a window of 10 minutes either way. You don't want to get there too early and you don't want to get there too late. And so give yourself a 10-minute window either way. Plus, if you are the host, you have a responsibility to say, this is when we are serving. Because sometimes you show up at somebody's house and it's like, here, would you like to watch us make dinner for an hour? and so, there's responsibilities on both sides. But what you mentioned, you should always bring a hostess gift or a host gift. And that's just something small, $5 to $20. And it could be a small box of chocolates or nuts or something, or it could be something that they have an interest in. Like if they're interested in cooking, bring a fun kitchen gadget or something, just something simple, just to say thank you for having it, because it's a privilege for you to be a guest in someone's home, and you have to remember that.
Learn visual clues when the party's over, the party's over. I had a party last year, and people were there hours later than it's not that I didn't want them there, but it's like, I'm yawning. I don't know how many more visual cues I can give you that it's time to go. Finally, and I have to let you go after this one because we have to get to Washington again, but can you talk about the proper way to say thank you for letting me part of your Thanksgiving, and talk about the importance of thank you notes?
Sure. Well, one thing I want to say really quickly is I do have a book. It's called The Exceptional Professional. And one of the things I did address in the book is what to do with guests who stay too long.
Okay, good. I will highlight that chapter.
Process.
Yeah.
But the thank you notes, you should always write a thank you note. And people think an email is acceptable, but really nothing replaces the handwritten thank you note. It doesn't matter how bad your handwriting is, it's the thought that counts. And letters linger. So write a thank you note and send it through the mail.
I cannot agree with you any more than that. It doesn't, for $25 you can get a box of your personal stationery with your name on it, and that nothing like that. I had a coworker's father years ago send me a thank you note, and I'm like, wow, he's got his own stationery. It's not that expensive. And, with print shops now, you can practically print your own. Hold up your book one more time, because it's called The Exceptional Professional, What You Need to Know to Grow Your Career. And that's a whole nother thing. I want to have you back sometime to talk about advancing in your career by being an excellent manners person, right? I mean, no one wants to hire the rude jerk.
You know what? That's another thing about the airplane. You never know who you're going to be sitting next to. Somebody who could be your future boss or a future, great networking contact. So do you really want to be there in your pajamas?
Yeah. Okay. Final question. Do I have to write you a thank you note for appearing, or will the thank you here suffice?
I don't know. I think I have to write you a thank you note.
Okay, well, then maybe our thank you notes will cross in the mail then. We're going to have you on again because there's so many topics we could talk about. I so appreciate your time today on a busy news day. Callista Gould is our guest, the founder of Cultural Manners Institute, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, and I thank you for your time.
Terrific. Thank you, Ted. You have a great Thanksgiving, too.
I'll do that. Cheers. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to update you on the breaking news out of D.C. 2 National Guardsmen shot near the White House. We'll tell you what we've learned. I have a producer who's going through all the wires for us here, and we're going to find out what we know about that. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk, 3:06 right now. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Ted Perry back with you on the Wisconsin Live Desk right now, and have to bring you a very sad update on the breaking news we've been covering for you. We can now tell you that the 2 National Guardsmen who were shot outside the White House at about 1 o'clock our time have died. They have been identified as 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard. They were shot near the White House, the governor of West Virginia said, and I'm going to read you a quote here. It is with great, and I'm going to bring up the scene here. It is with great sorrow that we can confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C., have passed away from their injuries. This is from West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey, writing on X, formerly Twitter. These brave West Virginians lost their lives in the service of their country. We are in ongoing contact. 2 West Virginia National Guard members have died in the shooting near the White House, the state governor said. This coming in the last few minutes in other news outlets, including also WTTG, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, all reporting this. So this information has been vetted. This is a sad situation that has gone into a terrible, heartbreaking situation. The suspect is in custody. That suspect was also shot. We do not know by whom or the circumstances of them being taken into custody, whether it was on the scene, whether it was elsewhere. But we are expecting an update from officials sometime, hopefully in the next few minutes while we're still on the air. That is the situation out of West Virginia. Just a terrible, tragic day on this eve of a holiday. It's horrific on any day, of course, but these National Guardsmen, we don't know their gender, service members away from their homes on this holiday, patrolling the streets of D.C. as they have been ordered to do by the White House. When we know more about that, I don't want to speculate any more than what we do know. I want to just give you the information that's been vetted. So let's talk about our situation here on this Thanksgiving Eve. It's a big travel day by air, by rail, and by car. And for that, I want to bring in Christina Van Zels, who is on the road with us. Christina, talk about where you are, talk about where you're heading, and what we can expect on the roads if we're going to be leaving and going somewhere after maybe people are watching at work and they want to get a weather forecast here. What can you tell us about the roads where you are?
Well, I am no meteorologist or FOX 6 weather expert, but what I can tell you is right now, the main thing we're seeing on the roads here is the wind really gusting. What's really cool is the truck that we're in is actually live reading what the wind gusts are. And right now it's reading at 59.8 miles per hour, give or take. So we are feeling the car move a lot. Just here on I-43, we're heading north where it splits between 43 and 57. Heading north because this is where the winter weather advisory is showing the most impact right now. This goes until 6 o'clock tonight. As for the road conditions itself, they're more wet. There's not a lot of snow that's sticking at this point. It's kind of a mix of rain and snow. Haven't seen a lot of pre-treatment here on the interstate either at this point, but again, really it's that wind. And as far as the visibility goes, what we've noticed is we can see about half a mile in front of us. I'm joined here by our wonderful Eddie Poser. He is taking the wheel for us today, and he was saying that some of the wind gusts are also kind of jerking the steering wheel a little bit. So that is the biggest thing we're seeing right now. But
well, that's what I wanted to ask you about.
To be out here.
Yeah, that the wind gusts. And go ahead if you could. Show the camera in front of you because you're coming up close to a semi there. It's got to be a very difficult day for those semi drivers, especially with that. It's almost like they're driving a sail in a way because they can catch a wind, and those winds coming strong out of the west. So where you are right now as you head north, it's coming from screen left to screen right. Can you talk about the volume of traffic out there right now? It seems to be fairly typical on a Thanksgiving Eve as people are trying to get up north. Maybe they're trying to get to a relatives or get in the last couple days of deer hunting. Tell us about the volume you see.
Yeah, it's pretty standard right now. And when you talk about the wind, Ted, we're on an open highway, so I think we're feeling the wind even more than you would if you're in more of a urban area. So definitely be careful. I think it's a good reminder just to give yourself that space between, especially semi trucks, if you are traveling today. I do have some numbers for you from AAA. We of course know that Thanksgiving is the busiest travel holiday of the year. That's what AAA says. In Wisconsin, there are nearly 1.5 million people who will drive. So that's about 88% of people who are traveling. And AAA says the busiest time to drive today is from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So again, if you are planning on heading out tonight, we will have live reports later to give you a live look at what we're seeing. But when it comes to the volume of traffic right now, it's pretty standard. It's not too busy at this hour.
Christina, I'm sorry, I had my mic on. I was going to say Christina Van Zels and Eddie Poser out on the roadway in a vehicle that yet to have a name, right? We haven't named this thing yet.
Yeah, so if you're watching and have a good idea for what to name our FOX6 truck, please let us know. Eddie, do you have a good one? He does not. I don't either, but maybe we'll be in the car for a while, so maybe we'll come up with something fun.
And maybe I shouldn't say this on air, but you know, we have Sky Fox from above, right, with our drones. I think we should call it Ground Fox.
Okay, you said that to me on the phone before we chatted, and I like it. It actually makes sense. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. There's some other ones floating around the newsroom.
Yeah, we're having a
they
contest.
Probably should just stay there.
Yeah, we love. Yeah, exactly. We're not even going to repeat some of them. All right, you guys be safe. We appreciate you giving us a heads up on what the roads are like, because I know people will be heading out soon after they leave work or get kids from school if they are in school. Christina Van Zels out there on the roadways with us. Going to take a quick break here on Wisconsin Live Desk. When we come back, we'll update the breaking news, the tragic news out of Washington, D.C. 2 National Guardsmen shot dead just a few hours ago outside the White House. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk on a Wednesday.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And we are back on the Wisconsin Live Desk, 322. I want to go right back to meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello, who was kind enough to join us here. We interrupted you for the vice president before. We apologize.
Totally fine. I understand why.
There we go. So we're going to give you the 4-box there, and what you were starting to talk about is also the return trip on Saturday or Sunday. That's also going to be a big issue. Take it away.
Yeah, and we're still pretty messy out there. I know I actually just stepped outside briefly over the last couple of minutes. The wind has not changed, and there is a little bit more snow now, not really coating pavement, so roadways are still just wet, but going forward this evening, I do still think we'll have to watch for maybe some slush in some of our northern communities, maybe some slippery patches as temperatures continue to drop. We do have some lower visibility in some of those northern communities right now because the snow is a little steadier and heavier across northern spots. And remember, these are communities that are under that winter weather advisory. That being said, that's one batch up towards the north. We actually have this new band that's picking up a little bit too. Madison down into Janesville, soon to be Lake Geneva. So throughout the evening commute, we're still going to have some of this snow in the area. So the wind, the snow, the reduced visibility, maybe some slick spots, all something you need to be aware of going forward this evening. Now notice though, as we look out towards the west, the end is near. After about 8 p.m., we are going to see the snow tapering off. So that'll be the end of round 1 of snow. It is still very windy, and unfortunately, even though our wind advisory expires at 6 o'clock tonight, it is going to remain windy all the way through tomorrow, just not quite as bad as today. Still could have wind gusts on Thanksgiving up to about 30 miles per hour, but look at what we have across the state right now, over into Iowa, down into Illinois. Everybody, for the most part, at least 35 miles per hour, but there are many spots that have already seen gusts up to 50. In fact, these are peak wind gusts so far today. Kenosha hit a peak of 51 miles per hour earlier today, and you can see all of the spots north and along Lake Michigan that were very close to that. It's also really impacted our temperatures. Remember yesterday, Ted, it was 50 degrees. Yes, it was dreary, but
it was a nice day,
right? It felt great outside. Today with the wind, we feel like teens, and we're going to hold steady in those teens through the night tonight, but there will be some spots tomorrow morning that feel wind chills in the single digit. So just know a very cold start to Turkey Day and staying chilly really from start to finish. Now, when it comes to that second storm this weekend, still a little early for exact specifics, but we are looking at a somewhat bigger storm moving its way on in starting Saturday morning, potentially lingering into Sunday morning, so a longer duration storm. And it's diving south, meaning you probably heard Tom mention this yesterday. The name of these storms are panhandle hook storms, and it's because they develop down south and they bring in all of the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico as they move northward. So that's the reason why we have our eyes on this round 2, almost a little more than what we've been watching today for, as we do have the potential to see maybe some higher snowfall totals, maybe our first winter storm warning of the season. I do think we're really going to hone in more on that tomorrow. We've seen some consistency today, though, so I think if models are consistent tomorrow, too, now that we're starting to get our shorter range models picking up on this storm system, then I think that'll really paint a clearer picture for us, Ted. But we do have the chance for the ride home from whatever destination you're going to, whether you're flying, whether you're driving. Getting home Saturday, Sunday will probably be pretty tricky. So I don't know if that means coming home Friday night. If you're lucky, holding off until Sunday evening, but we are really watching Saturday into Sunday morning right now.
How many people are using that as an excuse to leave the in-laws early? Mom, we'd love to stay. We really would.
Right.
Tell me about that term, Oklahoma hook.
Panhandle.
It sounds like a play that you would run on a turkey bowl day. Right. We're going to do the panhandle hook.
Jordan
we got one shot at this panhandle hook. So I went for a walk today. I live near Whitefish Bay High School, as you know, and I'm wandering around the track, and there were guys playing football and rugby on it, and that west wind was just really wreaking havoc with everything. Is it going to be that windy again tomorrow, do you think?
Not quite as windy tomorrow. So our gusts today have been up to 50. Just to put it into perspective for you, tomorrow's gusts up to 30. So, I mean, It's still going to be very windy throughout the day tomorrow. Just don't expect the wind advisory like we had today. That criteria, we have those put into place when the potential is for 50-mile-per-hour gusts. But sustained wind speeds will still probably be 20, 25 miles per hour, and the gusts will be up to 30. So expect it to feel even colder on Thanksgiving. We should see a little bit of sunshine tomorrow, though, so that is some good news. And calm Friday as well. We'll just be battling those temperatures, and then again, the weekend is really what we're focusing on now.
Because I don't throw across my body as well as I used to, and if I have to do it across the body and into the panhandle hook wind, it's going to be tough to make any completions.
I would never do that to you, Ted.
Okay.
I would never make you go through something like that.
Very good. Appreciate your time. You have a great Thanksgiving, and appreciate you being patient with us as we deal with a whole lot today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ted.
Stephanie Barrichello for us. Thank you very much. Let's take you back now to D.C., and this is the scene of what we now know to be a fatal shooting of 2 National Guard members from West Virginia. Patrick Morrisey, the governor of West Virginia, confirming their passing on Twitter a short time ago. Twitter, now X, of course, and you see Metropolitan Police on the scene. I imagine you have every type of law enforcement there. Of course, you got the district police, the Metropolitan Police. You are going to have federal agents on the scene. I even have to wonder if there's going to be law enforcement heading that way from West Virginia, although I don't know the exact protocol of that, but we can tell you these 2 National Guard's troops, members of the West Virginia National Guard, gunned down not far from the White House at 17th and H Northwest, not far from the whole White House complex. We do not know yet what led up to that altercation, if it was a premeditated attack, if it was spontaneous, if something happened. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but we know all this information will be coming out. I'm going to urge you to keep it here on Fox Local, because we're going to give it over to the national folks in a moment. There's another reporter from Fox 5 hopping in front of a camera right there. I'm going to see... do we have time to listen? No, we have 30 seconds, so we're going to take you away from there. I'm going to leave you with a shot of Lambeau Field if you're heading up that direction. Of course, the Packers play tomorrow right here on Fox 6 against the Lions, kickoff at noon. But it's good Packer weather up in Green Bay. So if you're heading up to Brown County, Outagamie County, that area, please be careful. Thank you for joining us on Fox Local this hour. It's been a busy one. Happy Thanksgiving to you. We'll see you on the broadcast side starting at 4.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of First and North. Lou Cadellis with you at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North, here's the crew from Fox 2 in Detroit. Welcome back, Jennifer Hammond. Haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you.
From Fox 6 in Milwaukee, Brandon Cruz. Welcome back to Brandon as well. And from Fox 9 in Minneapolis, I love seeing this guy. He brings it every single time. Abad Hicks is on the show. All right, let's look at the NFC North standings
You just
going
like
into.
to push his buttons, Lou.
I love pushing his buttons. Yes. All right, these are the updated standings going into Week 13. Top 3 teams in the NFC North all won last Sunday. Bears in the lead, working on their second 4-game win streak this season. They hold the number 3 seed in the NFC behind the Rams and Eagles. Bears are in Philadelphia on Black Friday. Game can be seen right here on Fox 32 Chicago locally. Packers remain second in the division, 6th in the NFC playoff picture. And if the postseason started this week, the Bears would host the Packers in the wild card round. Lions back in the win column, but a half a game behind Green Bay with a chance now to leapfrog the Packers Thanksgiving Day. Detroit today would not be invited to the playoffs. Vikings, sorry, Ahmad, 4-7 and would need a complete turnaround to make the postseason. By the way, the Giants are the only team in the NFC officially eliminated from playoff contention. I want to get into the first place. Yes, thank you very much, Jen. You guys are lucky. First place, Bears, do it again. First 8-win season for the Bears since 2020. Hear me out now. Bears keep beating bad teams and winning close games. Yes, I get it. The Steelers team, though, pretty good. Tied for first right now with the Ravens. didn't have Aaron Rodgers, didn't play, and it was another one-score game for the Bears, who are now 6-1 in one-score games. Sometimes certain teams have the magic, and the Bears seem to be that team this season. By the way, Ben Johnson, just the 4th coach all time in Bears history to open up 8-3. Again, the main reason behind the close game victories, that guy, Ben Johnson. He's got players believing in themselves, believing in the coaches, and now the coaches are believing in the players. Starters and backups. Yes, backups as well. Bears had all kinds of injuries in that game against Pittsburgh. They were down at one point 7 defensive starters against the Steelers. Jennifer, what the Bears did Sunday reminded me of the Lions last season. All those players Detroit had on IR, and the Lions just kept playing next man up. Montez Sweat's been playing his best ball since coming to the Bears, 6.5 sacks over the last 6 games, 2nd most sacks in the NFC behind Micah Parsons. And the Bears with 2 more takeaways. They now have a league-leading 24 takeaways, and against the Steelers, they turned those takeaways into points.
Hell yeah! It takes a village. It takes a village. And I'm talking about players. I'm talking about coaches. I'm talking about training staff. I'm talking about everybody in this building. Everybody. And here we are towards the back half of the season, and our depth is being tested. All right? It would have been so easy to walk. Man, how are we going to win this game? We got no linebackers. What are you talking about? We got no linebackers. How are we going to win this game? You guys don't bat an eye. Good, better, bad. Good, better, bad. Never let it rest. Never let it rest. Good gets better. Good gets better. Any better gets better. Any better gets better. Bears on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bears.
Jen, I'm going to come right to you out of Ben Johnson's pep talk there as locker room celebration. Do you guys miss Ben Johnson?
Yeah, and you know what? It's crazy. Actually, it's not crazy at all. It's completely rational. As the weeks go on, as time goes on, Lou, there are more and more people here in Detroit who sit back and say maybe Ben Johnson was the creator of the magic that the Lions had going on with the offense, because what we've seen from this offense this season really is almost a shell of what they did last season and the prior season, as they really made that charge toward the NFC Championship game. And what's really critical here, though, also to mention, is the fact that the Lions are much better on offense when they have a healthy offensive line, which they don't have right now. Also, when they had Frank Ragnow in the middle, and they had some veteran guards alongside him. So things have been a little sketchy for the Lions, and there are a whole lot of people that miss Ben Johnson right about now in Detroit.
All right, Jen, I'm going to keep it with you. I'm going to stick with the Lions for a second. What a wild finish in Detroit against the Giants. And Dan Campbell and the team fired up in the locker room after that one.
Holy crap, guys. It's a heck of a win, man. Listen, you don't know exactly how the game's going to go, and you guys just kept swatting it back, man, buying your time, and we made the stop we needed to. Hutch, great job there at the end. It was unbelievable.
Hey, way to fight, fellas. Way to fight. Use this feeling for the next one. Use it. We know what this one's about. Win up there, what do you think? Win!
All right, Jen, I appreciate Goff. I appreciate Campbell. But guess what? In my opinion, from the outside looking in, these Lions are not as good as last year's team that won 15 games, even though they fought through injuries all season long. Do you agree? And if yes, why?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, as I mentioned, I mean, it's the personnel up front, certainly on the offensive line. That's where we're seeing some of the biggest issues at this point in time. And give those guys credit. I mean, they are very beat up. They are battling through to the best of their ability. And we even talked yesterday to Tate Ratledge, who said, you know what, his game against Green Bay in the season opener was probably the worst of his career, and that was his first of his career in the NFL. And they are trying to slowly get better. We saw them run the ball very well. So without taking anything away from that offensive line, I mean, Gibbs was amazing, but the offensive line also created a lot of those creases for him to get through, and he ran up the middle on some of those long runs, the 49, the 69. He found a crease right up the middle thanks to that offensive line. But I do think that there's something going on offensively that this team needs to find an answer to, and in a big hurry, because they've got to be able to keep up with this not only Packers offense, which hasn't been as great lately, but but the Packers defense, and they're going to be coming. I mean, they know how to get Jared Goff off his mark. They've really been they gave them huge issues, 5 sacks, also holding them to just 46 yards rushing in that first game that they lost in the season opener at Lambeau. So it's going to be a hugely tall task for the Lions offense as they exist now and as they played against the Giants to be able to beat this Packers team. But again, I think there may have been a little look beyond the Giants, and nobody will ever admit that to you. But it happens in the NFL. It happens in life. You're feeling good about yourself. A 2-9 team comes in, and you think, yeah, we'll just play our game. But they've certainly got to clean some stuff up and play a whole lot better to beat that Packers team on Thursday.
All right, I'll get to the Packers and Brandon Cruz in a second. Ahmad, J.J. McCarthy had another awful showing against the Packers, and it hurts me to say that. He's a LaGrange Park kid. He's a local kid in this town. He's somewhat of a hero after what he did at Michigan. Were his struggles against the Packers more of his own doing or Green Bay's defense?
I think there was a combination of it. I mean, if you look at the TV copy of the game, you can just make the assumption that J.J. McCarthy was awful. But if you go back and you look at the All-Pro 22 look, it's like, all right, well, maybe some of the play calls were bad. The offensive line that the Vikings spent a ton of money on, $100 million plus on 2 guys, a first-round draft pick and Donovan Jackson, they just not have been good this year. That was the first game that all 5 offensive line starters played together, and guess what? They didn't end the game playing together. So, yes, J.J. McCarthy has to shoulder a lot of that responsibility because he's the quarterback in the National Football League. But I think it was a total team effort that kind of was a letdown offensively. Kevin O'Connell didn't do him any favors, putting the training wheels on him in the first half, calling 58% runs, and then Miles Price with the costly turnover there coming out of the second half. But just putting it mildly, J.J. McCarthy has to be better. I mean, he has 10 interceptions this season. That's never going to get the job done as a QB1 in the National Football League.
All right, let me bring in Brandon now. Brandon, Packers defense dominated that second half against Minnesota. Man, only gave up 4 total yards, had 5 sacks, 2 coming from Micah Parsons. When Green Bay's defense plays like it did last Sunday, I'm telling you, they're a Super Bowl team, aren't they?
The defense has been phenomenal. I mean, that's the one thing. Even in their losses, the defense has played great, especially lately. And it's all starting to come together right now. And this is the time of year when you historically look at what Matt LaFleur has done. The Packers win. The Packers don't lose from this point on generally because of the adjustments they made and the way things start to progress for this team. And usually it's the offense, but right now it is the Packers defense. And as you mentioned, they really just dominated the Vikings on Sunday. A lot of that was they were getting pressure on J.J. McCarthy, and if they weren't sacking him, which they did 5 times, they were creating turnovers, 2 interceptions, something the Packers defense hasn't been able to do much of this year. But last week, they had an opportunity for 4 interceptions, and they went through the hands where they just dropped it. The DBs did. That didn't happen against the Vikings. And so you start to see the momentum coming and that complementary defense where the offensive line or the defensive line is creating problems. The linebackers and the DBs then are able to take advantage because the quarterback is off balance or throwing early or throwing late. I mean, this is what the Packers are right now. They are now hoping that the offense catches up to where the defense is.
All right, Jen, I want to go back to the Lions. Pass defense was bad, man. Gave up nearly 400 passing yards. Everyone blaming Aiden Hutchinson. I don't get it. Fans, Giants offensive linemen, what's the deal?
Yeah, it's interesting because Aiden was asked about that just yesterday, and he said, you know what, that's fine. People can say whatever they want. I got a sack to end the game, and guess what? We won the game. So that's all he cared about. I will say this, give the guy credit. He was out there for 77 defensive plays, which is an ungodly amount. And what they're trying to do now is get some bodies healthy along that defensive front, Lou. They're going to hopefully get Marcus Davenport back this week so he can play more on the outside. Aleem McNeil has actually shifted from the tackle position to the edge. He played 17 snaps against the Eagles, 24 against the Giants. Who knows if he'll play even an increased load this week against the Packers. But until they get somebody on the opposite end from Hutch, they're going to have trouble stopping the run, which is going to lead to longer downs and distances, and there's going to be more passing situations, and they're just going to have a hard time until they get healthy along that defensive line. But for Aiden, you know what? He came up with one play that was absolutely huge, so I give him all the credit in the world for that, and he got a game ball from Dan Campbell for it.
All right, back to the Vikings. Ahmad, Justin Jefferson, this guy has not had a 100-yard receiving game since week 5. Is he frustrated? No.
Yeah, I mean, he's not coming out and saying he's frustrated, but if I were in his shoes, I would be so upset each and every week. You're talking about a guy that's eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark each and every year he's been in the National Football League. And with the backup quarterback and Nick Mullins a couple of seasons ago, he averaged 80 yards per game plus. This season, he's averaging about 50 yards per game with J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback. So, yes, he's not coming out and blasting his QB1. He's having his back. You know, he's supporting him in front of the local and national media. But you have to know he's upset, and he's just praying for a breakthrough.
Brandon, give me 30 seconds. Emmanuel Wilson filled in nicely for Josh Jacobs last week. Career high, 107 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Who's getting the carries in Detroit?
I have to believe it's going to be Josh Jacobs for the most part, but because of the way Wilson played, I bet you he gets a lot more touches than he would have previously because of what he was able to do against the Vikings. I mean, it was the first 100-yard rushing day of the year for a running back in the Packers offense, so I think Jacobs also was going to get out there, but by 9:45 on Sunday morning, he was out. So to me, it's still most likely going to be Jacobs, but look for Wilson to get more touches.
Back to Ahmad. Undrafted rookie Max Brosmer. Is he going to be in line to start if McCarthy can't go because of being in concussion protocol?
Look, Brosmer certainly will have his opportunity. They love the way he progresses down the field. They love the way that he's able to kind of progress through a defense and through his reads and whatnot. But only time will tell. We'll see if J.J. McCarthy clears that concussion protocol, and we'll see what Brosmer has if given the opportunity.
All right, you just heard it from Ahmad. Brosmer will be ready. We need to take a timeout. Do the Vikings' problems run deeper than just at quarterback with J.J. McCarthy? And we will give you the latest on injury news around the division as we continue next here on First and North. Back here on First and North, Lou Canellis with you at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago, joined by Jennifer Hammond at Fox in Detroit, Fox 2 in Detroit, Brandon Cruz, Fox 6 Milwaukee, Ahmad Hicks, Fox 9 Minneapolis. All right, back to Jen. Jen, I still think the Giants are trying to track down Jahmyr Gibbs. The guy just ran wild all over him, career high 219. But he's been doing it the last, 3-4 games. I think he's averaging $130 on the ground. What do you think? Are we going to get a heavy dose of Gibbs for Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, I would imagine that they would continue to feed that goose, so to speak. But I'll tell you something, the way that he ran against the Giants was probably to be expected because obviously their run defense is one of the worst in the league. I don't know that they will have the same success against the Green Bay Packers. But this guy, you just see him get the ball and take off. And then when he gets that open field speed, he hits not only just a second gear, a third gear, and he's gone. And it was so thrilling to watch those long touchdown runs. And he said he didn't feel like he had to do it all on his own because he gives credit, of course, to the offensive line and the guys up front. Certainly that's modest and kind, but they did do just enough to get him some of those big holes. And also he caught some passes too. I mean, when you see this guy go and then you see the tweets from Barry Sanders afterwards, I mean, he is really something special, and I think he's only going to keep getting better. And Dan Campbell doesn't seem interested in using David Montgomery at any point in the near future in the game plan. He'll get a couple of balls early, but when he's doing, 1.9, 1.8 per carry, he's not getting many balls his way, so it's all going to be on Gibbs.
Yeah, he was electrifying in overtime, that's for sure. Brandon, Jaden Reed's practice window opened last week. What do you think? Will he be back on Thursday?
I think there's a hope that he can. I'm not sure if he will be able to, but he was very excited to be just back with the team, be back on the field, enjoying the moment. And he was able to get healthier with his foot as well. He had broken his clavicle in week 2, and that's why he was out. But he had an injured foot at the time, and so he says he's feeling great right now. He would love to be out there, and I know the Packers would love to have him, especially, with the injuries they've had in their receiving corps. So to get him back would be a big, big boost going into Thursday. But at this point, I think it is still a very questionable return for Jaden Reed.
Ahmad, one of the reasons why I love you on this show is you're honest, man. You call it like it is. And I'm going to really hit you with one here. Do the Vikings' problems run deeper than just at quarterback? Last year, we're talking about a team that won 14 games. They made, and you touched on it, the financial commitments this year have nothing to show for it right now. Has this team done a poor job of drafting and developing young talent?
Absolutely. It is all on the shoulders of General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. You pull up his resume and his drafts, they have been horrendous. And I mean, that's putting it mildly. No one from his first draft is still around outside of Ty Chandler and Jalen Naylor, and neither one of them are making a significant contribution around here. You can make the argument that only Jordan Addison of all his draft picks have really panned out to be something here in Minnesota. So if Minnesota wants to improve, their general manager, who just got an extension this past offseason, he has to be better. He has to do a better job of drafting young, talented players that they can develop and not have to go out and go spend $350 million on their roster. So it all starts with him and then the people in his scouting department, because they made sure that J.J. McCarthy was the guy. They went and got him. They drafted him high in the first round of the NFL draft a couple of seasons ago, and then they let Sam Darnold walk and they let Daniel Jones walk. They didn't make a big effort to keep both of those guys around. I know they wanted to, but they didn't throw the dollars their way because they believed in J.J. McCarthy. So something must be wrong with their eyes, or something must be wrong, extremely wrong, with J.J. McCarthy's confidence, because I don't think he's the same quarterback he was that we saw in training camp last year. But if this is what we're going to get, then that means that they tremendously failed this football team, and their scouts failed General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and not helping him make a better draft pick and, sticking with J.J. McCarthy. So I think it all starts with the top down here and not just the players on the field.
Nice job for calling it like it is. Jen, Lions got back a handful of players, including DJ Reed. Kirby Joseph, though, missed his 5th straight game with a bad knee. Terrion Arnold, his 2nd in a row now with a concussion. Any chance Joseph or Arnold or both are back Thursday?
I would say, Lou, that it's looking mostly like we will not see Kirby Joseph again, but it's very encouraging, and it seems as if we might see Terrion Arnold back. He cleared the first hurdle of concussion protocol. He also was dealing with that shoulder as well, you'll remember. So as he has returned to practice, yesterday's practice reports, it was just a walkthrough. They're doing another walkthrough today, but they are not practicing this week. But he was listed as return to practice and limited. So that means that he looks like he's going to be able to make a start. Dan Campbell said that again yesterday. And also on Monday, I spoke to Terrion, and he seemed pretty encouraged by the fact that he might be out there on the field on Thursday.
All right, that's good news. Bears will have some key defensive players coming back. Hopefully soon. We don't know yet. Edwards, TJ Edwards, defensive backs, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, they could be back for the Eagles game, the two DBs. TJ Edwards, hopefully a week from Sunday against the Packers. Tremaine Edmonds, this guy was having his best season as a Bear. He had 4 interceptions, was leading the team in tackles by a mile, but he got moved to IR. Can't return now to the second Packers game at the earliest. That's December 20th. That Saturday game we'll all carry in prime time. It's so important for this defense that they get those defensive backs back. Jalen Hurts Friday. Jordan Love coming up twice in 3 weeks. Brock Purdy and Jared Goff on the schedule. Bears will need them. Back to Jen. Lions host the Cowboys the following Thursday, a week from Thanksgiving. 3 games in 12 days. How are they going to handle this stretch, Jen?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny, yesterday Aiden Hutchinson said, you know what, as much as that sounds like just the gauntlet, we're only focused on the next one. We can't look beyond that. Those games, really, the fact that they've got 2 in a row on Thursdays after that, they don't get that recovery weekend that they typically get after Thanksgiving. Lots of hydration, lots of rest. They need some time because their schedule, as you see coming up, is really tough. I know the Bears have probably the toughest one so far in the NFC as the schedule for the rest of the season, but it's not going to be easy against the Packers or the Cowboys at the